Welcome back to another FPL reaction stream, the first one of the calendar year as we look ahead to Game Week 21 and discuss all the action of Game Week 20 so far. We've still got plenty of games tomorrow, unless some of them get postponed out of nowhere. Well, I say out of nowhere, we've kind of been talking about this for over a day now with the amber weather warnings in the UK, particularly in Liverpool. But yeah, let's just keep the conversation going. I did a deadline stream earlier today. It was over 3 hours and I gifted 10 memberships. We hit some new goals. We got over to 200 likes, getting ever closer towards 31,000 subscribers, and we hit the super chat goal too. I've got one set up here for today's stream as well. And let's talk about football. Let's see what we think about FPL now. What has changed in the last couple of hours? I think more people will be put off Jackson, and I did say this actually in my deadline stream earlier. Maybe I made a mistake by selling Joao Pedro instead of Jackson. And of course, if you look at this week only, that's kind of very simplistic analysis. But in terms of the amount of money you save by selling Jackson instead, and also the way Chelsea have fallen off a cliff in recent weeks, I do think opens up the doors for other investments like Anthony Gordon in the midfield, which I'm still planning to do. Maybe Trent or Konate at the back, and we would expect the Frenchman to return from injury fairly soon. Maybe tomorrow if the game goes ahead, but most likely it would be in Game Week 21. But let's get straight into your questions and comments as always. Drop a like if you enjoy the content and subscribe to the channel. Maybe if we do push a little bit today, we can get to 31k. That would be a great way to wrap up the first weekend of 2025. Hopefully I didn't say 2024 earlier, but if I did, probably just a bit of rustiness there with the new year. Crispy says, Mbeumo and Kirkes have destroyed my rank. I'm not so sure if Kirkes would have destroyed your rank. Not ideal not to have owned him with the clean sheet, the assist, and the big return, but yeah, Mbeumo, fair enough. He's got 30% ownership. I'm very happy I have him. If it wasn't for Mbeumo, I'd be on a red arrow yet again. Crispy also says Timber to Hall for free, then Enzo to Eze or Sarr for a -4. Yeah, good transfers overall. I still think with Arsenal, you'd want to have one of their defenders or Raya in goal, but they aren't keeping clean sheets away from home, and that's why I'm less keen on the double up as each week passes by. You might get a lot of them at the Emirates, but it's not like last season where Arsenal would go to any sort of ground and keep a clean sheet and dominate the games. It's not really the case this season. So, yeah, I'm more open to that sort of move. And Lewis Hall is a good investment for next week. I did advise most people today to bench him, as I thought Spurs would score. I still think Sarr is a better asset than Eze, but it was once again the Crystal Palace talisman getting the assist and getting the returns there. That's back-to-back returns for him, whilst Ismaila Sarr has been very frustrating. But ideally for me personally, I'd rather keep Sarr and sell Semenyo, for example. If I'm buying fresh, maybe you kind of just invest in Eze. He's got a bit more, I don't know, proof or evidence to suggest he's the more consistent asset, especially looking at last season. But he has been kind of stop and start in this campaign. Eze or Sarr, I think it's still very close, and I'd lean towards Sarr. You save a bit of money in the process, but it might be Eze. He might be the one to invest in. I'll be honest though, if I'm looking at other midfielders, if you can afford Gordon, he's the one to go to, and Mbeumo is also my favourite. Adam says Liverpool game will be off. Yeah, I did see, I think it was Mark Goldbridge, he said it's very likely that the game won't go ahead. There's still amber warnings in Liverpool. I hope that's not the case, because it's not like I've got Van den Berg coming off my bench. It's going to be bloody Ismaila Sarr, and some people have some very good vice captains like Mbeumo, for example, so I really hope the game goes ahead, but it's not going to be the case, is it? Enzo to Mbeumo with 0 in the bank, or Enzo to Rodgers with 2.2 million in the bank, says Gunnar. Oof. I like both of those transfers, to be fair. I think Rodgers might be an ideal 8th attacker, so to speak. But if you want this player to start week in, week out, I'm going to say Mbeumo. It's kind of awkward to buy him now because I know Man City are still there for the taking. They're going to concede chances, and I think Brentford could score. But afterwards, it's Liverpool. And that's a game where I'd even bench Mbeumo, to be honest. That's one of my provisional plans for Game Week 22. But yeah, I'd go to Mbeumo over Rodgers. And in my best wildcard team, both of them actually feature. Ahmed says, Happy New Year's, mate. Appreciate what you do, and your posts during the holidays were a great companion in my holidays. Wish you a great 2025. I'm glad to hear it, Ahmed, and thank you very much for the kind words and the very generous super chat. Hopefully you had a great game week and are enjoying the weekend in general. And good luck for the rest of the weekend and also for the future. Sato says, start Pedro versus Ipswich or Sarr versus Leicester. I'll be honest, it's a close call. And Joao Pedro, I've said this before with him, if he gets a goal, he's going to get bonus points. I haven't even checked, but I know for sure he's getting maximum bonus points today. It's a difficult one. Sarr earlier this season came off the bench, played 9 minutes against Leicester and got an assist. And they aren't exactly the strongest of defences there. You could even argue Palace are stronger away from home compared to at Selhurst Park. I'd lean towards Joao Pedro at the moment, but ideally you start both. Do you know if Hill, 3.9 million, is a definite starter for Bournemouth? No. And we also saw Travers start today over Kepa Arrizabalaga. No, I don't think that'll be the case. Either way with Bournemouth, I've said this before, the best assets to invest in are Howson and Kirkes, but their fixtures coming up now are pretty tough. I wouldn't expect many clean sheets for them. But this also leads on to the next question by Snicker Boa. Should we move on from our Bournemouth players considering their upcoming fixtures? Now, look, I've done this in the past where you've got players who might have done very well, but now they've got a bad fixture swing. Now, generally speaking, it does make sense to sell them, go to Lewis Hall, Robinson, and kind of chase the upside there. But I still think keeping one Bournemouth player is viable. They went to Old Trafford. I know it's not the toughest of places at the moment, but it's still kind of a big name. A lot of people thought that United would score in that match, and Howson gets 14, 15 points. He did it against Tottenham as well. So I think it's worth keeping one of Howson or Kirkes. But if you're investing in fresh, you probably look elsewhere. You don't chase the points that have just gone by, and you invest in different areas and try to make up ground on those that might have invested in these sorts of players. But look, if you've got a trip up in Bournemouth, for example, I trim it down. But if you've got one or two, you don't need to necessarily sell them. And it also depends on the player in question. With Semenyo, for example, I'd be very happy to sell him. He is such a frustrating asset. I said it when he got that assist against Fulham. I know I'm going to start him against Everton and he's going to do F4, and that's what happened. So Semenyo, I'm more keen on selling, even Evanilson up front, but defensively, I'm quite happy to keep Howson and Kirkes. Marcus says that was bad from Arsenal. I need to sell Madison. Think it will be Mbumo, and my only Arsenal will stay Gabriel for now. Yeah, that's fair. At the moment, I'd only want one or two Arsenal players maximum and no attackers. Nwaneri, very, very good performance today in the first half. If he wasn't injured, I'm not sure why he was subbed off, probably because of the booking and to get more experience on the pitch, but Martinelli did absolutely nothing when he came on. Yeah, Gabriel for me is maybe still the best defender, although that's certainly debatable. If they're not going to keep clean sheets away from home, though, you'd probably give the edge to Trent there. But yeah, I don't really blame you. As for Madison, yeah, it looks like he's a sell. It is Arsenal away next. If he does start, he could get something, to be fair. He did get 2 assists last season, albeit different circumstances, and Spurs are there for the taking, it seems. Yeah, Mbeumo and Gordon are my favourite midfielders to replace Bruno Fernandes, Madison and Saka, but you're not going to be selling Bruno Fernandes this week, for example. Madison has been my worst transfer, 2 points in 3 games. A bit unfortunate, though. I mean, with the first game, he was benched against Forest. People were surprised by that, and he got booked in a very short cameo. Then, of course, this illness going around, which might have affected his prospects today. So, yeah, very unfortunate. With Madison, though, I said it from the beginning, it's a risky pick, a bit like Diaz. If you invest in him, you have to stomach the benchings and the early substitutions, but when he does play, he's going to get returns. Mohit says, what are your thoughts on the penalty awarded to Brian Dillon? Asking this considering Kulusevski elbowed Gordon, wasn't called a penalty. Do you think Arsenal have been unlucky this season? Now, look, people probably know by now I am an Arsenal fan, and you'll probably see or kind of see it as being biased, but I genuinely think it wasn't a penalty. I do think you won't see that again for a very long time. But having said that, in terms of Arsenal dropping points today, I blame the team more than anything else. A lack of quality up front. Once it went 1-1, I just didn't have any sort of faith or confidence that Arsenal would go on to score again. And that's a big issue. I also had that same feeling against Chelsea, against Newcastle, Bournemouth, Inter Milan. There are so many occasions this season, even last year when Arsenal ended very strongly. And you can even say the year before that, but I think Arsenal were a bit more exciting offensively back then. There are certain matches where Arsenal, you don't get that confidence that they're going to score multiple goals, and you need to kill these games off. Brighton always step up against the big teams. I've said this time after time again. And once Arsenal went 1-0 up, it was too defensive. Do what you did against Brentford the other day. Go for the kill, score 2 quick-fire goals, give yourself a cushion, and then you can defend. But I do think it's a mixture of Arteta getting things wrong. Subbing off Nwaneri, for example, was a big mistake. And yes, as in regards to your last question, I do think Arsenal have been unlucky in certain games. So Brighton earlier this season, also Man City. 2 games where maybe you could argue referees cost Arsenal 4 points. Because with those second yellows for the kicking the ball away, name me one example of a player being sent off with a second yellow for that same incident. We haven't seen it. And Szoboszlai, for example, against, I think it was Bournemouth at the time, he kicked the ball, no, it was against Forest. He kicked the ball away, and he wasn't given a second yellow. There are so many cases like that. But Arsenal won't win the league this season, not because of referees, but because they don't have enough quality up front. Festus says, had João Pedro on my bench and Odegaard had to come in. I need to fix my midfield. Can you help on improving Odegaard, Salah, Palmer, Rodgers and Enzo? I have 2.8 million to spend. Yeah, my priority in the midfield, as I mentioned before, would be Gordon and Mbeumo. But this week, if I'm investing in new, it would be Gordon over Brian Mbeumo, to be fair. I know people will look at that 19 pointer or 18 points and just, invest in Mbeumo. That's fair. I think he's a seven-figure option for the rest of the season. And I said this a few weeks ago. I did discuss the pros and cons, and look, it was definitely logical to sell him in some cases, but I look at the other options. Diaz could rival Mbeumo at times, but doesn't have the minutes that Mbeumo does. Neither does he have the penalties. Anthony Gordon has finally come into the equation, but that wasn't the case 5 or 6 weeks ago. So yeah, Mbeumo or Gordon would be the ones to replace. I'd keep Rodgers for sure. Enzo Fernandez if you can. Maybe upgrade him, but it's not a priority. You might want to consider Elanga if you're looking for Forest defensive coverage, although not this week. I wouldn't recommend it against Liverpool. But yeah, I think Odegaard and Enzo are the ones to sell for you. If you can afford Gordon and Mbeumo, I haven't done the quick maths for it, but if you can do both, I think that speaks for itself. Roman Jarvis says, is Jackson a sell in your opinion? And if so, Mateta or João Pedro? Doing João Pedro would fund the move of Ahmad to Mbeumo for me. I'd rather do João Pedro than, no homo. I'd rather buy Mbeumo for Amad Diallo and then buy João Pedro for Jackson. Now look, Jackson I think will score more points than João Pedro, but you look at Chelsea's recent form, they've dropped points in 4 consecutive matches, they've ruled themselves out of any title race, Jackson's not getting any returns, and he's been very frustrating in front of goal. So yeah, I'd get Mbeumo and João Pedro in, but if you don't have Gordon, I'd prioritise him over Mbeumo because of the next few fixtures in particular, but in an ideal world, you have both Mbeumo and Gordon, which I've discussed quite extensively in recent podcasts. Seller et Audax, great name, says Captain Haaland, nice one. Palmer, Foden, Wilson, Isak also returned. That's a great score. I'd rather have points in the bag than games in hand, as I say, or in your case, players in hand. But Wissa might have been very frustrating for you. 4 big chances missed, and he salvaged something at the end, getting bonus points as well in the process, but that was a stinker, I think, by Wissa today. He could have gotten much more than that. No worries, Tom. Dylan, I'm not sure what's going on this season. 50 points with 5 to go, including Salah captain, gone from 58th to 14th in the world. Wow, that's a great season you're having. Callum Jr., and most importantly for you, your team is doing really well in the league, so it's kind of like you're in dreamland at the moment, so enjoy it, and hopefully you can keep on pushing on to the top 10, and then who knows, at least sit in first place for a little while, so I wish you the best. Marco says went for Murphy instead of Gordon, was saving money for Arsenal, now will most likely not need it. Yeah, look, with Arsenal offensively, I've always said this, I've been very consistent. For me, it's Saka or nothing, and if you want to go a bit different, you look at Havertz, who is still ill, it looks like. Gabriel Jesus as a short-term punt, but I said it before Ipswich Town, I'd personally skip him, and I'd rather invest in even Jackson, although that hasn't really panned out so far. Isak for me is the priority. Mateus Cunha long-term is arguably the second or third best forward in the game, and you've also got Chris Wood. MVRX Rapid says 26 points with 6 players to go. It's not a good score. I'm not going to sugarcoat it, but you've got 6 players left. I do think that could turn into 60 or 70 points, and then you've got either a small red arrow or a marginal green. So it's not all over yet, but it's not looking good at the moment. I've had this pattern all season except for today, where on the Saturday, it looks like I'm having an absolute stinker. And then on the Sunday, I get 40, 50 points out of nowhere. And then it looks suddenly all rosy again. Pencal says 63 with 3 left. Good stuff. There is a chance the Liverpool Man United game doesn't go ahead. I'm less confident in it happening now than I was in the deadline stream earlier. Mark Goldbridge, like I said, did put a tweet out saying it's very likely the game will be postponed. So let's keep an eye out for that situation. But ultimately, it's about the weather. Hopefully, it isn't too bad and we can see Liverpool play and some Salah points as the captain. I don't want these jammy points off the bench. Sorry, people, if you're going to get João Pedro off your bench or Van den Berg. I don't want that personally, but we'll see what happens. Keep Foden for next week. Yeah, which I said as well this week. I don't think Foden is worth investment. But if you've got the likes of Gvardiol, Foden, Haaland, I think that all keeps, and they proved it today, with the exception of Gvardiol, you could say. But yeah, I think with Foden and Haaland, you definitely keep them for now. My fixtures look so bad, almost everyone facing each other. Yeah, that probably, I mean, it's not good on paper, it isn't good, and most likely you'll have a low scoring week, but you can be surprised at times. Hey Dylan, start Gabriel or Robinson this week. It's close. I think Tottenham can go to the Emirates and score. Despite their issues, Son and Madison should be back, and, you know, I mean, I say back, they did obviously feature today. Probably Gabriel, but I'm less keen on him. And look, this is not me saying I think you should sell Gabriel, but I think in most cases earlier this season, I just say, yeah, start Gabriel, don't think about it, but I think it's definitely a debate. Munoz is so fun to watch, more like a winger. Yeah, that's why I like him as an FPL asset. He's exciting to own, but you're not going to get many clean sheets from him. I think Palace have a decent defence on paper, by the way. They've got some solid centre-backs, and Munoz is a decent wing-back, but yeah, I don't think they'll keep many clean sheets. Out of the price rises tonight, who's the best one to get? For me, if I'm investing now, it's Gordon. Looking at the next few fixtures, Wolves at home, Southampton away on the horizon. Mbeumo can do well against City next week, don't get me wrong. And I say next week, I mean FPL Gameweek-wise, it is technically in 2 weeks' time. Diaz, you're going to get some frustration there with minutes, but he's going to get a lot of points, so I don't mind him. But the way I'd rank it right now, if I'm investing, is Gordon first, Mbeumo second, Diaz third. Over the course of the season, I think Mbeumo is the best of the lot, and he's proven it. Only Palmer and Salah have scored more points than him in the midfield. Yeah, nice one. Mbeumo Wissa, just with Wissa, like I mentioned earlier, he missed 4 big chances. And around game week 23-24, when the fixtures turn for the better, I think that double up can work wonders for you. But you might consider going away from Wissa for a little while and then going back to him. But against City at home, it's not the worst fixture to keep Wissa. He actually scored in the first 20 seconds against City when they were in good form at the Etihad. This game will bring heart attack to me. Yeah, look, FPL-wise, I'm doing okay. Unfortunately, my club, not so much, but it is what it is. Unfortunately, can't have it all. Is that 46 points or 39? On screen, it would be 39, but without the bonus points yet to be added, I believe. So yeah, Palmer is going to get 2, Isak's going to get 2, and Mbeumo with 3 bonus points. So yeah, I'm not lying to you. I've got 47 points. It's courtesy of live fpl.net, where I give you the updated rankings, which is kind of provisional, and it might be a few off, but it is quite accurate. The points is all based on the bonus points as well being factored in. 35 with 5 to go, is that good? It's okay. It also depends which players you have left. If you've got Salah captain and he actually plays and stuff like that, then looks pretty decent. Mbeumo is only 17 points behind Palmer. Yes, and maybe a 16, right? Because of the bonus points, Mbeumo got 3, Palmer 2. It's really impressive stuff. I really like Mbeumo. He's been one of my best signings as well this season. I can't remember if I started the campaign with him. I don't think so. I need to double check it, but yeah, he's been brilliant. Could be Havertz when he's back, potentially, and he was scoring in consecutive games, then he gets injured. Gets ill. He's not injured. I do think Arsenal missed him today, I'm not going to lie, and he did score at the Amex last season. Yeah, I do think Havertz was a big miss today, but look, Saka gets injured, Havertz is ill, and then look who Arsenal have on the bench today, Martinelli as an attacker. Everyone else is a left back or just a youngster. It's just not good enough. I missed Arsenal versus Brighton. Yeah, João Pedro's good. Like, all bias aside, and this is an honest assessment, João Pedro completed a few dribbles. I think he even went past Saliba, by the way, which is very rare to see. Linked up play well. For me, it's never a penalty, so I do think the return itself is fortuitous, but his performance did merit a return. So that's just a non-biased take on it. But I'm sorry, if you see another penalty like that, give me a link, let me know, because I don't think we'll see that for a long time. Top 10 short says, need Evanilson replacement. Have 10.5 million in the bank. I have João Pedro and Raul. I'd definitely be looking to go for Isak here, 100%. It's never too late, you could argue. In some cases, yeah, I'd go for Isak. Dutta says 59 all over. Kirkes rocks, fair play. Pedro on the bench 2 weeks in a row. Salah captain, Robertson and Trent remaining. Well, you might have those João Pedro points off the bench if Liverpool versus United is suspended tomorrow. I'm not going to give a percentage on it, which I'm sure someone will ask at some stage, but I do think if the game doesn't go ahead, it's not going to be good for me personally. But yeah, I'm less confident about the game actually happening now. But that doesn't mean I suddenly think it's going to be postponed. It's just I'm less confident. Can I cover Gordon with Murphy? Murphy's a good option. He's going to offer great value, but I'd rather go for Gordon personally. And if you want a budget midfielder, Rodgers for me is the #1 pick. Tom Mills says best defender to bring in at 4 million or less. Sorry, mate. I'm not a big fan of the 4 million and below defenders. Maybe Greaves. but I'd rather invest a little bit more in a Castagna or Anderson, even Howson. I'm not a big fan of investing in Bournemouth now based on the fixtures, but I think he's a nice fifth or fourth defender. Mikalenko's another one with an upcoming double, maybe in 24 or 25. That's Gameweek 24 or 25, by the way. So, yeah, I'd rather invest a little bit more, try to find a way to push towards those better assets. Hey Dylan, enjoying the stream. Thank you very much. Shem the Kenyan. Isak, Wolves at home or Palmer versus Bournemouth for captain? Isak, although if Salah ends up missing out this week, I will regret switching the vice captaincy from Palmer to Isak this week, which I did during the deadline stream. But yeah, it's Isak next week against Wolves, in my opinion. I think Bournemouth are a good side. Mohit says, I think I have 38 with 4 to go. I transferred out in Bournemouth a couple of weeks ago. Big mistake. Look, I don't blame you. The fixtures were very poor, very grim. And, you know, him scoring against Arsenal was surprising to some people. And look, I just think he's a quality player. He doesn't need many chances to score, and he creates opportunities too. Yeah, he's one of the best assets for me, and I'm happy. One of the few things I've done well this season is to keep him Boomer. Max07 says 20 points of 5 left. FPL Gameweek already, to be honest. Yeah, look, if you could... if I could swap this green arrow to a red, but, you know, my team win a game of football, I'd take that all day long. But, yeah, look, 20 points isn't good, but hopefully the 5 players left will do the business for you. In the case of Jackson, he generally seems to miss a lot of chances that fell to him. That fall to him. Yeah, I do think he has improved this season, and towards the back end of the last campaign, he's also showing signs of potential there. He is a young striker, let's not forget. He's 23, 22 years old. He's got great movement, but his finishing can be erratic, especially against the big opponents. So that's certainly nothing new there. But yeah, in recent weeks, it's been very frustrating. I think for those that invested in Jackson early, they'll be more patient with him because they've gotten the returns from him, and people who are chasing have kind of lost out. But yeah, in my case, I think selling João Pedro to Wood, I think it made sense for me, and I don't think it was a terrible decision, but the outcome has been bad. And I also think in terms of the value and the amount of funds, I probably should have just waited, not made a rage transfer, and I probably would have ended up selling Jackson instead, and that opens up the door for Gordon or Trent, or maybe even both at some stage. But yeah, Jackson is still a good striker to have, but if it does allow you to buy Gordon and these other assets I've been talking about, I'd probably consider selling. 20 points, Dylan. I'm quite surprised. I've seen a few people talk about some low scores, but hopefully it does turn out pretty well for you on the Sunday. I wouldn't be surprised, by the way. Don't discount that possibility. Eli says, have 23 points on the bench, hoping Liverpool United is postponed. Yeah, look, if I had Trent as well in my team, or a United player, I'd love to have, you know, the game postponed. Then I've got Vandenberg's points off my bench. But yeah, for me personally, I hope the game goes ahead. Mohit says, the Wissa goal was hilarious. The Southampton defender passed him the ball. This is the second time this season that an opposition defender has passed Wissa the ball. Yeah, I also think last season, if you look at his goal against Arsenal at the Emirates, Ramsdale made that mistake. I think Wissa is a really good presser of the ball, though. I also think that energy, the movement, and the pressing does also give him that sort of luck, if you know what I mean. But yeah, it is also very fortuitous, of course. Interesting to see how Chelsea will play the rest of the season and how Maresca manages it. Leicester started really well last season and got worse as the season progressed. That's a great point. And I also think Chelsea fans would tell you that over the years, they've started well, or maybe they've started poorly, to be fair, but over the winter period, they just look really shaky and they drop points when they least expect it. Maybe they'll end the season strongly, but yeah, I mean, this confirms they're not in a title race. For me, the only team that can compete with Liverpool is Arsenal, but their away form this season just hasn't impressed me. The lack of quality up front is also a big concern, and I think Liverpool will run away with it. I personally think that. Chelsea, I think, should be happy with where they are right now. The recent results haven't been good enough, but win the Conference League, compete for the Cups, have a good run in that, and finish fourth, and they'll be quite happy with that overall. Albeit, it might seem underwhelming compared to, you know, if you look back a few weeks ago, they won 5 games in a row in the Prem. They were in such a strong position, but now it's been undone. Any update on Liverpool's weather? Same as before, mate. I think it's an amber warning in Liverpool until basically Monday, or 11:59 p.m. UK time on Sunday. I don't think anything's changed there, but like I said before, Mark Goldbridge put out a tweet saying that it's very likely that the game will be postponed, and I think United fans will be celebrating. -8 for Mbeumo and Wood starting to look good. Nice one, nice one. The aggressive move paying off. I can't remember who you sold, but yeah, buying Mbeumo has worked out really well for you. Arteta saying Nwaneri picked up a muscular issue, but disappointing. Thought he was brilliant for such a young player. Was even thinking he could be an option for those who go back to Haaland, only 4.5 million. Oh yeah, at that price and below, you're not going to find anyone better. Maybe Dibbling at 4.6 can be a decent alternative, but if Nwaneri starts consistently for Arsenal, that's a fantastic choice. But only as a fifth midfielder to come on from time to time, mainly to sit on your bench, but his potential is through the roof. I've talked about him so many times this season. I watched him live in the Carabao Cup against Bolton, and he just has that something special about him. And the fact he can play to a decent level in Saka's absence in that position is very encouraging. But yeah, I do think it's quite telling that Arsenal are reliant on a 17-year-old when they get one or two injuries up front. Welcome, Beardy. I think Odegaard's a sell, and I did say this even, 2-3 weeks ago, that I wouldn't invest in him. I was very impressed by Odegaard when he first came back from injury, but I made a mistake by recommending him because ever since that, he's been pretty awful in my opinion. Mbeumo seems to be somewhat of essential. Thoughts? I wouldn't say he's essential, but he offers tremendous value. I think he could easily be priced at 9 million and I'd still pay the money. I think he just offers that consistency. He's a talisman. Everything goes through him. He had that period of 2 or 3 matches where he played as a wing-back and it was Wissa getting the goals. But it just goes to show you that sometimes you need to show patience with these players, and I haven't done that at times. Mbeumo is a fantastic player. I love Arsenal to buy him, for example, but that's not happening. Best Enzo and Jackson replacements. 1.4 million in the bank. Already have Wood and Gordon. Well, apart from Isak, I would be looking at Matheus Cunha. I know the fixtures are poor, but I'm looking at Cunha myself to replace Nicholas Jackson. I know Jesus can do well in some of these games coming up, but he's very inconsistent. It's either feast or famine with him. I think you'll get a lot of blanks from Gabriel Jesus, as we saw today. So, yeah, I'm probably looking at Cunha up front in the midfield. If you can stretch to him, I'd love to say Mbeumo. J War 10 says 46 points as well. Held on to Joao Pedro and was rewarded. Kirker's 12-pointer saved me. Yeah, it goes to show that there are different avenues to points this season. That's what I like about FPL. But the fact I'm kind of up and down, especially in recent weeks, I'm not enjoying it as much as I'd like to. But yeah, I'm looking to buy Joao Pedro back and jinx the twat. When does Savio become an interesting differential? To be fair, look, he played really well against Everton. No returns there. City once again dropping points. But in the last 2 games, he's getting those goal contributions and some big, healthy returns as well. So yeah, I think Savio is a nice choice for the next 2 game weeks, but I'd still be looking at Gordon and Mbeumo. I hate to be boring, but that's kind of where my head's at. If City had better long-term fixtures, I'd be happy to take a punt on Savio and cover Haaland somewhat. But in this case, look, yeah, to answer your question, he is already an interesting differential and you can definitely go for him short-term, but I don't think he'll offer that long-term stability that a Gordon or Mbeumo would. Terry says, Watkins and Ahmad for Wood and Gordon. Should I do Jackson for Mateta this game week? Well, I think any Palace attacker against Leicester will be a viable option, but I'd keep Jackson in your case and focus on selling Watkins and Ahmad, or you might want to keep Watkins and sell Jackson instead. That's fine if you can make it work. But yeah, I think Chris Wood and Gordon is already good enough for you. Hot Potato says, I don't know whether I want Liverpool game off as I have Vandenberg on the bench, but at the same time, I'll have one player with 0 minutes. Yeah, maybe rank-wise will be good for you, but it also depends which Liverpool and United players you've got. I'm guessing you've got no United, but that's obviously an assumption. As a United fan, I'm praying for heavy snow for tomorrow. You'll probably get it, but yeah, I really hope the game goes ahead from an FPL perspective. Bruno, Gordon, Mbeumo, Rodgers, Ahmad, please rate them in order. Well, you are involving some budget midfielders, so it's quite difficult to compare. Relatively speaking, I would say Mbeumo first for the rest of the season, Gordon second, Rodgers third, Bruno fourth, Ahmad fifth. Ahmad offers better value than Bruno, but I do think Bruno outscores Ahmad until the end of the campaign. So hopefully that answers your question. Islam Puss's team, do you think it's time for Wildcard? Okay, so your goalkeepers, yeah, you could definitely make a change or two. Mikalenko's fine. Castagna, Trent, really good. Gvardiol, while not ideal, I'd be happy to keep him for the next 2, then reassess. Bednarek is definitely a sell. Odegaard, unfortunately, I think he's a sell. The rest of your midfield is very strong. In fact, I'd argue those 4, Mbeumo, Rodgers, Palmer and Salah, make up the best midfield alongside Gordon. And up front, yeah, I think Vardy to Isak would be the priority for you. but João Pedro and Raul are fine. So, no, I don't think it's time to wildcard, but there are a few things you could definitely improve on. I think if you get 1 or 2 injuries, for example, on top of those players I kind of highlighted to sell, then maybe you look to wildcard. But I think it will be a stronger play to save this chip for later in the season. And I don't know which chips you have, by the way, but in conjunction with a bench boost, I think the wildcard could work very well around Game Week 32, for example. J Ward 10 says, I sold Jackson for Watkins for the short-term upside. Villa look depleted without Rodgers. Will likely sell Watkins for Wood in 22. Yeah, great point. And I did talk about this in my deadline stream earlier. I was less keen on Watkins to buy this week. I thought if you were to do that, it would have been better in Game Week 19. And I do think that Rodgers suspension, that already put me off quite substantially from him. I think Chris Wood is a nice upgrade, and I agree that it's probably best to do that move in Game Week 22 when Nottingham Forest host Southampton. Should I wait for Gordon to buy before he plays 2 cup games? Yeah, I'd wait if you can. And also bear in mind, if you're, let's say, looking to buy Cunha, for example, or, you know, that sort of striker to fund Gordon, their prices are projected to drop tonight. Cunha is going to drop tonight, so that will help you to maybe avoid, you know, making early transfers, because it will be easier for you. You're not going to lose any value if you also make that striker move. But that's obviously very subjective and team dependent. Tenzin says, I've reached 38 so far. I still have Salah, Robinson, Kwanzaa and Aina left to play. And my vice captain is Haaland. So yeah, there is a possibility the game is called off tomorrow. I'm less confident about it going ahead now. And if that's the case, it might be good for you, because you've got Haaland vice captain. That turns into 26 points. Very good return. But you do miss 2 players. It depends who else you've got off your bench. But it might be a good thing. Back in the top 50k after a few bad weeks. Nicely done, Twisted Parky. Wildcard Game Week 21. I'll do that in a separate video. I'll give it more time. And there's also a long period until the Game Week 20 deadline. Game Week 21 deadline. So, yeah, I'm not going to do a wildcard team just yet. Penguino says, best Enzo and Jackson replacements. I covered this, mate. I'd look at Mbeumo in your case. And apart from the obvious Isak, the other one could actually be João Pedro, to be fair. But I'd probably say Cunha, if you can afford that. Gabriel, Munoz, Hall, Castagna, who to bench? I'm tempted to say Gabriel, to be fair, but probably Castagna here. I think West Ham score. Cunha or João Pedro again? Cunha, but I might go back to João Pedro, 1, to jinx him, and 2, just to get even more money available, and 3, because he's got better fixtures than Cunha. So, yeah, I think overall Cunha is the superior asset, but a lot of people will go to João Pedro if they haven't done so already. Radu says 52 of Salah captain, Trent and Wood to play. Yeah, once again, the same kind of things. We'll see if the game goes ahead tomorrow. If it does, yeah, you're in a good place. But some people will have some nice players off the bench, some nice returns there, and some good vice-captains in place. Start Pedro or Wissa for Game Week 21. It's close. I think Wissa could score against City, but it would be Pedro for me. Hi, Dylan. Awful Game Week with only 4 to go. I'm fed up with Jackson. Same. So did Ahmad, and Jackson to Gordon on Wood with 2 free transfers, despite Ahmad having Southampton at home next game week. Because Gordon's going up in price tonight, would price me out. I understand that. As long as you don't get any injuries or suspensions on the Sunday, and of course during the Carabao Cup games and FA Cup matches, you should be good to go. But yeah, I think in your case I would have done the same thing. Ideally you bench Chris Wood against Liverpool, but he could score. It's not off yet, but it does seem more likely now. I'm not going to lie. Martinelli to Gordon. Need to sell either Gabriel or Jackson to fund it, says Martin. Yeah, look, well, Martinelli scored a brilliant goal against Brentford, but today was anonymous. I think Gordon is a clear upgrade. I'd rather sell Jackson than Gabriel, to be quite honest with you, but Arsenal's next few fixtures, Tottenham and Villa, I mean, on paper, they kept clean sheets against both of them early in the season, but I'm not that confident now. Yeah, I'd buy Anthony Gordon and probably sell Jackson in this particular instance, but it also depends who you can replace these players with. So if you can do Gabriel to Trent, well, no, actually you can't do that, right? Yeah, no, because you need to fund it. Gabriel to Konate, maybe that could work, but I'd rather do Jackson to, let's say, Raul Jimenez, João Pedro, Cunha, or somebody else. Odegaard to Bruno or Gordon for a -4. Bruno has the better fixture this week against Southampton at home, so he could be a nice one-week punt, but longer term, it's Anthony Gordon for me. Yeah, Mateta could be a nice shout. I'm not a big fan of him in general. I know he scored today and a nice link up with Eze there, but I do think there are better forwards out there, like Cunha, Isak, and a few others I've mentioned, even Chris Wood long term. But yeah, Mateta's fine. If you're looking to go a bit different and go against the crowd, I think somebody like Eze or Mateta could work fairly well for you. Also Ismail Assar, of course. Joe says, hi Dylan, Salah's captain, Haaland as vice, 53 points so far, hoping for snow. Yeah, a lot of people hoping for that. Not me though, but I'm not going to get what I want, I think. I've reached 38 so far. Yeah, I covered that. I punted on Martinelli and didn't expect a benching today. Do you think I should just cut my losses or give him more of a chance? I did expect Trossard to start, but I actually thought Nwaneri would be on the bench, so I was surprised by him starting again and scoring, but equally a shock to see him subbed off for half-time. I think if Nwaneri is fit, there is a chance that Martinelli is benched next week, but I personally think he'll start. Despite that, I think he's worth selling. I'd rather go to Gordon or Mbeumo. From those three, long-term, I think Cunha is the best of the three, but when you also combine fixtures, I think investing in Mateta could be a nice differential, but I do prefer Cunha. I have to stress that. Who can I transfer in for Jackson? Cunha. He's back in Gameweek 21. You might be thinking, what about the injury? It doesn't seem serious. It was reported on the Thursday or Friday that he should be good to go for the next match against Newcastle. I'm not so sure. I'm looking to buy one Everton player for sure, and I think Pickford would be the ideal one. But attacking-wise, I don't want to go for Calvert-Lewin. God forbid. McNeil would be the only midfielder/attacker I'd consider. So it's really Mikalenko and Pickford, and that's about it. I think Pickford's enough. So the answer to your question is maybe, but I think more likely I'll have one Everton player. Let's not forget their double includes Liverpool, who are the best team in the league. Shane01 says Watkins and Gavardio for Wood and Trent. Yeah, overall, I'd make those moves. Jesus or Wood, still Chris Wood for me. Now, if you look at next week in isolation, Tottenham at home is a much better fixture than Liverpool. And that goes without saying, but I think Chris Wood is more consistent than Gabriel Jesus. Bruno to Gordon? No. If you got Bruno now, you hold him against Southampton. Can Konate cover Trent? Yes. There will be certain occasions where Trent gets an assist and then bonus points and these massive hauls, but if Konate can stay fit, which is a big if, I think Konate offers good value, arguably even better than Trent in that regard. Might as well wildcard. Chelsea been so disappointing. Yeah, look, I get that, but I was tempted to wildcard last week. I think it's very important to, try to give it time to mull over. The game week hasn't even finished yet. I know, when I wildcard, I typically like to make that decision early. So I know going into that upcoming deadline that I want to wildcard in that week, then I can chase some early price rises. But in certain cases, I try to hold off a little bit. And I do think Jackson and Palmer are still good FPL assets. Colwill even less so. I accidentally had Fass first instead of Van den Berg on the bench. So if the game gets postponed, I will get Pedro and Fass on instead of Pedro and Van den Berg. Well, at least you get Pedro. But yeah, that Van den Berg one will sting a little bit. Yeah, I probably should have started him or at least had him first on my bench. But yeah, I made that judgment and it is what it is. I thought Southampton would score. Is triple captaining Salah worth it versus Man United? Well, it's already done, mate. So you either did it or you didn't. I think for those that went there, it was a good option in terms of not thinking about the weather and the possible postponement, which has always been on the cards for the last couple of days. But I did advise people earlier today in the deadline stream that I probably would save it for a double game week in 24 or 25, which is very likely. And with that possible snow tomorrow, the amber warning and the postponement that could happen, because of those reasons, I would have saved the triple captaincy myself if I still had it. Since Liverpool look like they will win the league, what is the best Liverpool triple up? Well, it might just be saving a spot for Arne Slot, actually, for the assistant manager chip. But yeah, it'll be Salah, Trent, and then maybe Diaz. But yeah, a double up in the attack and one defender is my preference. I just think defensively they are showing more vulnerabilities in the last 5-6 game weeks, but they're also scoring so many goals. I'd rather kind of go all in on the attack personally. Thank you, Doogie. As he says, be sure to smash the like button and subscribe if you're new. We're getting very close towards 31,000 subscribers, and if we can reach that this week, that would be very much appreciated. We're actually 37 away, by the way, so if you are new around here, consider subscribing. It costs nothing, and it would be a great way to start the new calendar year in our first reaction stream of 2025. Let's see what else we've got. Let's keep on answering some more questions. Looking like the 5th red arrow in a row. Might have to play the wild card, even though my team looks decent. Almost all of my players have been blanking recently. I'm guessing you've got 2 or 3 Chelsea, but let me know your squad, Shivane, and we can go through it. Okay, you've already done that. Raya, Fabianski, Trent, Van Dijk, Gabriel, Robinson, Burgess, Salah, Palmer, Enzo, Ahmad, Sarr, Jackson, Isak, Wissa. So goalkeepers are fine. I do think Sells and Pickford offer better value than Raya, but I still think Raya will get a lot of clean sheets. Defensively, also pretty strong. You've got 2 Arsenal and Liverpool defensive coverage with Gabriel, Raya, Trent, Van Dijk. Yeah, 2 best teams in the league, 2 best defenses, but maybe a bit more variety. Could be nice, but I think that's a nitpick, to be fair. Burgess is the one you look at and think, yeah, you can upgrade him, but he's also a cheap defender. Midfield is also good. I would like to invest more money there, though, so Mbeumo and/or Gordon is the ideal solution. So I think what you could look to do, mate, is Jackson downgraded to a cheaper striker like Cunha or João Pedro, and it could even be Jimenez, by the way, and then use those funds to upgrade Enzo Fernandez to Gordon. And that's what I'd look to do this week, and suddenly your team looks much better. Earlier, I would have been like 60-40 in favour of the game going ahead. Now it's probably swung the other way, to be fair. It's very close, but it looks like there's a lot of reports going around that the game could be cancelled. I've only seen the Mark Goldbridge tweet, though. Maybe that's where people are getting their information from. He does have, or I think he knows some sources that kind of have some insight there. I haven't seen anything else, but if you have maybe, I don't know, come across something on Twitter, let me know, drop the link, and we can go through it. Yeah, that's what I mean. Look, I mean, for you, really nice, but I would rather avoid that. Hopefully, the Liverpool game goes ahead. Thoughts on tomorrow's game? Fulham and Ipswich likely scorers, please. I said 2-1 earlier for Fulham. I think Jimenez scores if he starts. Maybe Harry Wilson and Delap. But look, I'm kind of going for the goal scorers there. Sometimes it might just be someone absolutely random, like Burgess. But yeah, that's my likely goal scorers. Play Colwell or Lewis. I don't like Colwell at the moment at all. I think Bournemouth is a tough game, but so is Brentford away, and City are still vulnerable defensively. I'd probably favour Lewis a little bit just for the attacking threat, but ideally, I wouldn't start either. What do you think of Gabriel Jesus? As nothing's changed really in that regard. Short-term punt, decent. He obviously got a big return against Brentford and against Palace a few weeks ago, but not a long-term solution. I've never felt that way. I'd rather invest in Cunha, Chris Wood, and a few others there. Possibly. I don't suddenly think João Pedro's amazing. He's just that sort of player. I said this weeks ago. He's going to keep on blanking against these, really easy opponents, and then against Villa and Arsenal, he'll probably get a return, and he's done it in both matches, so he's fine. As an 8th attacker, he's absolutely fine, but he's going to be frustrating. If you can kind of temper expectations with João Pedro, I think you'll be happy with him. I think the game will be cancelled. Serious snow chaos incoming. Yes. It'd be a shame, but what can we do about the weather? Jackson is annoying me, says Dryhill. I think he's annoying us all, except for those that don't own him. Is Isak, Wood and Cunha the best front three? I'd argue yes. I think that's the most consistent and the best value front three you'll find. So yeah, that's probably it. But a lot of people will go to João Pedro to then fund other moves. Who's your ideal replacement striker for Havertz? It's going to be the same names, mate. Apart from Isak, who's kind of obvious, I'd be looking at Cunha, Chris Wood, although this week is a bit awkward to invest in. And apart from that, you maybe go for João Pedro or Jimenez. Yeah, same here, Tenzin. We'll see how it goes. For Gameweek 21, should I bench Rodgers or Watkins? Based on recent form, I'd rather bench Watkins, to be fair. And there's no guarantee he starts. It might be Duran taking his place there. Yeah, as I mentioned before, mate, I'd keep Bruno. If you've held him until now, I think it makes no sense to sell him against Southampton. No, I think Mbeumo's better than Bruno overall, but this week, no. I'd keep Bruno Fernandes. Waleed says, should I sell Odegaard for Mbeumo now? Brentford's fixtures are worse. Well, City at home is still a good fixture for attackers. It's more so the Liverpool game straight afterwards that I'm not that happy about with Mbeumo, but long term, he's going to do the business for you. If I'm investing in a midfielder now, it's Gordon. It's all about timing. If it's this week, for the Southampton game, I would have said, yeah, you know what, Mbeumo's fine. But this week, I'm a bit less keen on buying him just yet. Maybe wait a little bit until Gameweek 22, for example. But if you've got the squad depth, I don't mind Mbeumo at all. Bench Pedro instead of Hall. Yeah, I mean, I did say this earlier. It was very close for me between Hall and Pedro, but I was backing an Arsenal clean sheet in the end, and I should have just listened to myself and my brain from last week when I said I think Arsenal will drop points in one of these away games. So yeah, it is what it is. Diaz to Gordon or Fernandes? Oh, if I'm buying one now, it's Gordon. Don't get me wrong, but if you got Bruno Fernandes, I would not sell him. Last week, I didn't want to play him, so Wood came on, and now this week, yeah, that's FPL heritage. I'd sell Havertz personally. He could score against Tottenham and Aston Villa. He's done it before, but I think there are better forwards elsewhere. Yeah, I think those with double or triple Liverpool, maybe a United player will be fuming, but it's going to be a lot of bench jam this week, it looks like. Terrible morning in New Zealand. Only 18 points as Jack Genders was on 55 last week. Still have Aina, Robinson, Salah, Jota, Wood to go. Yeah, and hopefully the Liverpool game goes ahead for both of our sakes. I just bought in Martinelli. Should I just get rid after his benching? It depends, but if you can go to Gordon or Mbeumo long term, that's just a easy transfer for me. Iwobi's okay. I'm not so sure if I'd invest in him now. I think if you got Iwobi, you hold and then reassess after Fulham's fixtures turn for the worse, but I'd rather go for Rodgers. I wouldn't sell Jackson to Wissa. If you were to do that move, that's more for Gameweek 22, 23. If I'm buying one now, it's Raul Jimenez or Joao Pedro, dare I say, but with both of them, you're going to get frustrations. With Jimenez, it's going to be the minutes. With Joao Pedro, it's going to be returning against the best teams, and against the easier opponents, he's going to blank. It's difficult. I think Jackson is still one of the better forwards in the game, but I'm leaning towards selling because it opens up the funds to make other moves in the midfield and defensive line. So, yeah, it's not that clear cut, but it's more of a sell than a hold for me. 80 points says real life with Savio and Mbeumo Masterclass, Haaland captain, fair play. Omara says 28 points and 7 bonus from 6 players. I'm left with Bruno, Ahmad, Robinson, Wood and Salah captain. Yeah, you've got some good players tomorrow, but having 2 United if the game goes ahead, not that pleased about it, but hopefully, if the game actually happens, hopefully United can surprise us. Odair says 52 points with Robinson and Salah captain still to play. Yeah, decent score, good players left. It might end up being your vice captain who ends up being the most important. Jackson has been a letdown, missed like 3 good chances today. Yeah, he was good for me last season, but he has been a pretty poor signing for me this time round. Best wildcard team I'll talk about in a future video. So yeah, just wait a few days for that. I'm not going to make a wildcard team now. I just got Haaland in my team thoughts. Well, if you're happy with the rest of your structure and you feel you're not jeopardizing or making compromises elsewhere, then fair enough. But I think with Haaland, it's a case of holding if you have, and if you're kind of investing in you, I mean, you can still do it, but the long-term fixtures for City are pretty poor. And it's the same, you know, kind of reasons for me not going there at the moment. He's just too much money. I'd rather have a balanced squad and not rely on one man, which I did between game weeks 1 to 10, basically. The worst part is I can't justify myself to transfer him in Mbeumo for Rodgers or Bruno. Yeah, I'd keep the 2 players you have, and honestly, Rodgers is not a sell. He's a good player long term. I'd maybe consider Bruno to Mbeumo in Game Week 23 or Game Week 22. I think that's the play for you. Actually, no, not Game Week 22. It'd be Game Week 23. Yeah. Yeah, and Winner has a muscle issue. I imagined it had to be an injury because I know he had the yellow card. There was no other reason to sub him off. He was Arsenal's best attacker, scored the goal, very lively. The only downside maybe is that sometimes he held onto the ball a little bit too much or the corners weren't that great, but Emaneri has so much potential. Yeah, it's just a shame. I think Arsenal, I mean, there's a lot of things you can criticise, you know, with the manager and the board this season not showing enough ambition in the summer window, but also some misfortune with the injuries and illnesses and these absences. It is what it is. Sato Mbeumo and Jackson Terrell for a -4. No. I think Sarr might outscore Mbeumo next week, actually, and also bearing in mind Game Week 22, where Mbeumo faces Liverpool at home. That's the only time I'd consider benching Mbeumo, by the way, when he faces Liverpool. I'd probably say no. Ismaila Sarr, once I made the transfer, I regretted it a little bit, to be honest. I should have just bought Gordon back then. But as a budget midfielder, he's still one of the better picks, in my opinion. Not as good as Rodgers long term, but I think he'll get some returns. Against Leicester away, I'd back him to do well. Let's see if he can do the business. Yeah, Savio is on fire recently. I just got Haaland. Yeah, good fixtures, scored 3 goals in the last 2 games. like I said, if you can make it work and you're happy with your team, that's fine. But he also costs a lot of money. And if he, look, he's obviously one of the best strikers in the world. He's going to get 20 to 30 league goals. But I think you need more from him to justify that price tag. Sue says, hello, Dylan. My plan was to bring in Jackson, but thinking Mateta now. Oh, yeah, I wouldn't be buying Jackson now. And I said that last week and the week before. I was more keen on Jackson in the previous deadlines, but he just needs to step up big time. Otherwise, he's a sell. Yeah, I think Mateta's a nice differential, but my favourite forwards to invest in long term are Isak, Cunha, and Chris Wood. Those are my favourite free forwards. Then, if you want a cheap alternative, you're looking at Jimenez or Joao Pedro. But look, as a differential, Mateta's absolutely fine. I'd rather buy Mateta than Jackson right now, or Kai Havertz, Gabriel Jesus, etc. I'm not a big fan of Joelinton, and I've said that before. He's a good player for Newcastle, but also very dirty, by the way. Should be given more yellows and reds, but that's another story. From Newcastle, you're looking at Isak, Gordon, Hall, maybe Jacob Murphy. That's about it for me. Best 6.2 to 6.8 million midfielder. At that specific price range, you might say Eze, but I think Rodgers is better. Even Ismail Assar. That's the way I look at it. Start Rodgers or Wood next week. Rodgers. One of the few times I would advise you to bench Chris Wood. Yeah, Vandenberg's on 10 points. He was on 11 at one stage, but Wissa's late goal actually pushed Vandenberg down, so I'm happy about that. But yeah. The triple Salah I meant, says Marco. On a positive, if it gets postponed, United at home looks better in the double than Everton and Bournemouth away. Yeah, it would be another double for Liverpool. And you could basically use the assistant manager chip on Arne Slot for one double, and then the triple captaincy on Salah for the other. I just want the game to go ahead. Hey Dylan, green arrow so far. Nice one. There is also a possibility that Liverpool make a move for Milos Kerkez this transfer window. I mean, I'm not sure if Bournemouth will sell now, but yeah, if Liverpool were to do that, it shows a lot of ambition, which is something Arsenal lack. Should I sell Sanchez? Chelsea defence is so annoying. Yeah, I'm not a big fan of goalkeeper moves, but Sells, Pickford, Raya, they're the three best goalkeepers in the game. Yeah, Enzo to Mbumo, great transfer long term. Not the best time to buy Mbumo, admittedly, but great upgrade. Is Pedro Porro to Trent a must-do? It's an upgrade. Spurs are awful defensively. Even though Porro gets an assist every now and then, I'd do it. Captain Palmer or Isak? Isak next week. That's my current thinking. I think Bournemouth can go to Stamford Bridge and win. Martinelli to Mbumo, Eze or Rodgers? Long term, the best midfielder out of those three is Mbumo. But if you're buying one now, it's a bit different, and I think Eze has the best fixtures. I'm going to stick with Mbumo as a long-term solution and not overcomplicating it or booking in transfers, so to speak. In a best midfield 5 on the wildcard, I'd probably not change much from my recent addition unless we get injuries tomorrow. So you're looking at Salah, Palmer, Mbumo, Gordon and Rodgers. That's my favourite midfield 5. I would rather go to Trent if he can supreme. Went Chris Wood over Mateta and Wissa. I still think Chris Wood is better long term, to be fair. Mark Goldberg just said that it will start snowing in about an hour and won't stop until 6 in the morning. After that, it will rain the whole day, and they feared the ice, not so much the snow. Yeah, thank you for the update, because I didn't see the exact video. I just saw a tweet from him, and it just kind of gave the overall thing. It didn't specify details. Yeah, look, it's also a question of transport, about the fans going to the stadium and how it affects public transport. So yeah, hopefully the game goes ahead, but it's not looking great right now. Start Enzo or Jackson next week? Jackson. Yeah, covered that. 56 -4, 52. Robinson, Salah captain and Wood left to play. Nicely done. Yeah, just it's another week for me. Another set of regrets with transfers and stuff like that. It is what it is, but at least it's a green arrow. Jackson to Joao Pedro and Enzo to Mbumo -4. Is it worth it? Yes, long term it's worth it, but I also question the timing of buying Mbumo. I'd rather buy Gordon this week, for example. Cunha, also great move. Even though he's got poor fixtures, I think he's a set-and-forget option like Mbumo. I'm happy none of my starting players were left out, considering O'Shea is the only one available on my bench. Yeah, and of course, tomorrow might be it might throw another curveball FPL-wise. Thank you, Twisted Parky. So yeah, we've got quite a few people watching, almost 400. Let's get the likes up to 200 plus by the end of the stream. And let's also get to 31k. That's our big aim for the end of the stream. and we are making more progress. I think we're less than 30 subscribers away now, and indeed we are. So let's get to 31k subscribers by the end of this reaction stream. We'll be going on for another hour or so, answering more questions. I also did a 3-hour deadline stream earlier today, and I've gone through hundreds, thousands of questions. I've lost count, but it's all fun. I'd rather... That's a good question, by the way. I'd actually rather start Kulusevski against Arsenal. Now, generally speaking, I think Chris Wood is a much better option, and everything goes through him. So, it's a difficult one, to be fair. Normally, I'd say Chris Wood, no hesitation, but my current thinking is Kulusevski. I might change my mind about that, but good question. Henderson, best price per points long-term keeper? Possibly, but I still think Sells and Pickford offer better value because Palace aren't the most reliable defensively. Assistant manager chip in Game Week 24 or 25 on slot. It depends when the double is, mate. But yeah, if they double in that time, I'd be looking at Arne Slot as my assistant manager. I'm going to play it fairly safe, although maybe at one stage I'll say F it, I don't really care. I'll go a bit aggressive, go for Sean Dyche or Iraola or something woke, as they say. Would you bring Castagna or Munoz in Game Week 21? I'd rather buy Munoz. Other options? That's what I mean, though. So yeah, look, Howson and Kirkus, for example, I think for those that have them, you can keep. But investing in them now, it's a bit awkward. But yeah, Robinson is fine. If you've got the money for Robinson, I'd still highly suggest that. So probably Robinson or Munoz for me. With the double game mix in mind, who's more likely to start both, Konate or Trent? That also depends on the other personnel. So for example, if Bradley is back by then, you'd probably argue that Trent is more at risk of being benched. Konate is more injury prone and could have his minutes managed, but with Joe Gomez injured, yeah, I don't think Slot will trust Quansah as much, and we've seen that this season, so I'd argue it'd be Konate, actually. But it all depends on his fitness, how he returns, and I also think Konate's injury-prone nature does make him a risk at any given moment. So it is a good question, but also a difficult one to answer. I just think if everything's normal, you know, with the current circumstances, I'd say Konate's more likely. Foden to Mbumo / Gordon, or hold Foden till Ipswich? No, hold Foden for now, until the Ipswich game has gone by. The next 4 fixtures look appetising for Isak and Gordon owners. Yep, and I'll soon be one of them. I'm soon going to go back to Gordon again, maybe even buy Lewis Hall. Yeah, I mean, look, who knows? Maybe if the game does go ahead, maybe with all the kind of uncertainty going into the build-up, maybe United do something. I mean, I don't know. You know, Liverpool are going to win. If this game is played tomorrow, if it's played, you know, I don't know, in May, if it's played on Doomsday, Liverpool are going to win the game. Pinguino says Jackson to Joao Pedro and Enzo to Mbuma -4. I covered that, mate. I covered it, mate. What to do with Watkins and Diaz? Don't have Gordon or Bruno. Wood, Isak, other forwards? Look, Diaz is still a fine player to keep. I prefer Gordon and Mbuma long-term. Bruno Fernandes is a nice option this week and against Brighton, I'd argue. But I'd probably rather keep Diaz and not go to Bruno, sorry. Would Isak, yeah, maybe Cunha to fund the other move, but you don't need to sell Diaz in my opinion. Even Watkins is okay, not the best option, and I've always said this, I've been consistent for the last month or two. Rodgers is by far the best Aston Villa asset. Next week, probably Raya still for me, but I don't think Arsenal or Chelsea keep a clean sheet. Thank you, Joe. I am not AI. If I was, I'd be better at FPL. Why can't they just play the game without fans? Nah, I mean, people spend a lot of money on that. That was just like one aspect of the reason why they'd postpone the game. But I mean, name me an example where, you know, the Premier League have said, F it, you know what, we're going to play the game without fans, apart from COVID. You know, give me an example. It's just not going to happen. Sell Jackson tonight before the price drop. The thing is, mate, I am looking at Cunha as a replacement for Jackson. And if that's the case, Cunha's price is also going down. So it kind of negates that Jackson price drop. Now, then again, Gordon is probably going up in price, and I'm quite set on buying him. So I'd rather have more information. I made early transfers last week, and it burnt me because I would have sold Jackson instead of Joao Pedro, and that would have saved me transfers in the future. So I think it's probably just best to save, or kind of wait and see in most cases. Yeah, as I just covered now, basically, I probably went too early with my Joao Pedro to Chris Wood move, and I should have waited a little bit, and then I would have sold Jackson instead and found other areas and other moves like buying Gordon either this week or in Gameweek 21 for free. Juan says, hi Dylan, please bench one. Next week, it would be Chris Wood. In most cases, I'd say start Chris Wood, but against Liverpool, I'd rather start Ahmad and Sarr. Thanks for the advice. Arsenal looking a bit shaky, and Spurs and Kulusevski might have more of a chance of grabbing a return than Wood. Yeah, look, I still think Arsenal are better than Liverpool defensively, but I also look at Spurs and Forest defensively, and I do think Spurs have a bit more about them. Now, Chris Wood is a talismanic figure. Nottingham Forest just need one goal, Chris Wood scores it, and he gets bonus points even in a loss. You know, that's possible, but yeah, that's my current thinking on it. In this reaction stream, which is the point of it, my kind of hot take, my, how do I say this, kind of fresh reaction. Yeah. Another person asking if you're AI. I think it's the same person. I think Joe asks it in most streams. I hope United vs Liverpool gets called off. No. Hopefully it doesn't. Keep Havertz and Ahmad. Ahmad, yes. Havertz, I'd be inclined to sell, but he will be back next week. I kept Jackson and bought Wood in for Pedro. Thinking of going back to Pedro, but he'll probably start blanking again. I mean, in your case, as a Brighton fan, I'd probably just not go for Joao Pedro. I have that same kind of mentality with Arsenal. If I jinx an Arsenal player, I just don't go back to them and I just leave them be. And I'd probably just jinx Saka, unfortunately. Cunha is a really good option. If money is no issue, I think Cunha is better than Joao Pedro anyway, so that can work very well. Jimenez, his minutes will all be all over the place. They always are, basically. If you look at the last few weeks, 60 minutes, 70, 23... Look, Jimenez as a 5.5, 5.6 forward is fine, but Joao Pedro is more secure in that regard. Yeah, back-to-back 9-pointers. I started him last week against Villa, but I sold him this week for Wood, and I should have just kept him. I think Jackson was the one to sell. Typical FPL, right? When you think you've got it all figured out, nope, no you didn't, mate. Savio was crazy today. Clean sheet would have been a perfect day for City. Also, do you know anything about Claudio Echeverri? I've seen a bit of him. He's got potential and he's rated highly by River Plate fans. He's more of an attacking midfielder. He can also play on the wings. But I'm not going to say I've seen a lot of him because I haven't. But the little I have, I've been quite impressed by him. He's got potential, but he does seem quite raw still. Currently sitting at 571k. Hopefully you're in an even better position tomorrow, Safair, in the top 500k. Thoughts on Jackson to Wissa or Solanke? I mean, look, yeah, Wissa in a few weeks' time, fair enough. Good investment, but difficult one. I'd probably say Wissa, but Solanke's consistent and he scored today in the first few minutes. Thoughts on Aston? I can't even speak. I think my brain's fried at this point. Thoughts on Aston Villa, assistant manager, Gameweek 31, then go to slot for a good fixture and then a double Gameweek. That could be on the cards, especially if tomorrow's game is postponed. I don't trust Aston Villa though to, go for Unai Emery. I'll be honest. If it was last season, maybe. I wouldn't go for Unai Emery right now. I see what you're doing, though. Because of their league position, that could really work well. We ain't even getting one attack against Liverpool. I think you can, though. If Liverpool overcommit, United on the counter can create chances. But one thing I found with United is they get the openings, like against Arsenal. Like, if with one good pass, you get a chance, but they don't have that quality in the attacking areas, apart from Ahmad. What do you think I should do with Jackson? It all depends. So if you're happy with the rest of your team, you can keep Jackson for now and reassess in 3 or 4 game weeks. But if you're struggling to find funds to buy Gordon and you want to get him in, or Trent at the back, or these sorts of moves, I think Jackson could be a cash cow and you downgrade him to Raul Jimenez or Joao Pedro. I don't like these options. I don't think they're better than Jackson necessarily, but they offer better value. And with the extra funds, you can upgrade other areas. So that's what my current thinking is. Play Kirkes or Aina in Gameweek 21? Kirkes. Play Wood against Liverpool or Rodgers against Everton? Rodgers. AI in FPL is overrated. Yeah, look, I'm just saying, if I was AI, artificial intelligence, and I'm a robot, I'm cold, calculated, I don't let emotions get the better of me when making transfers like I did last week, then I'd be doing even better, I think. What does it say on my shirt? What's it? I don't even know what it says, for fuck's sake. Something about, I've paused my game to be here, basically. So I'm a gamer, so it's a gaming shirt. My family got me. I'm considering replacing Raya for Trent. That's crossed my mind too. I was talking about this earlier. Maybe I could do Raya to Pickford and then buy Trent in the back line for Veltman. But yeah, I still like Raya long term, but the lack of clean sheets away from home is quite worrying for a very expensive goalkeeper, actually. I will buy Gordon for game week. Well, yeah, next week. That's the plan. When exactly? Maybe I'll wait a little bit. But because he's playing Arsenal in a few days' time, if I buy him, then he gets injured. Well, at least I jinx him. I mean, I don't want anyone to get injured, just to make it clear. But I don't know. If I jinx Gordon, I'm not that fussed, if I'm being honest at this point. So, yeah, I'll probably wait until tomorrow, then make a decision. But it's just, if I look at my other transfers, I'm not that certain on what to do. Do I sell Jackson and then go to Cunha? And if not, do I just go back to Joao Pedro shamelessly? Do I sell Raya to Pickford? There's a few unanswered questions, so I think it's best for me to wait for the rest of the matches and then reassess. But I might make the move before the Carabao Cup semi-final against Arsenal. No, I'd probably wait. I mean, if you think the extra 0.1 million that you lose out on is very crucial for your future moves, then pull the trigger. If you're absolutely certain about Gordon, then fair enough. But otherwise, you're not going to be priced out. I'd wait. Should I sell Kirkus for Hall or Jota for Gordon? Jota to Gordon is the best move for me. I think Kirkus is fine to keep for the next few. I'm going to bench them anyway. Well, Gordon should start if you buy him in, but yeah, keep Kirkus and I sell Jota to Gordon. Yeah. Start Rodgers next week. Well, Villa have been inconsistent, right? And Everton have tailed off a little bit recently against City. And of course, today against Bournemouth. I'd still start Rodgers over Wood, though. It depends on the context, right? In my best wildcard team, for example, yeah, I think Rodgers still starts over Chris Wood, or maybe you go to a back four. Savio and Milenkovic are slated for price rises tonight. Yeah, I'll cover that now. So let's go to the FDR first. Everton are now top with Liverpool in second, with the provisional double in Game Week 24 or 25 being factored in by Fantasy Football Hub. According to them, the probability of Game Week 24 is 45%, and in Game Week 25, it's also 45%. So Arsenal, Newcastle, and Fulham complete the top five. Then we look at Wolves, Man City, West Ham, Forest, and Brentford, who are in the bottom echelons of the FDR. If we look at the projected points for Game Week 21, Palmer is top against Bournemouth, with Salah in second, Isak third, Haaland fourth. Then we've got Fernandes, Cunha, Gordon, Joao Pedro, the bloody bastard, Mbumo, and Odegaard in the top 10. I would stay clear from the Norwegian magician. He just hasn't been at it in recent weeks. If I'm ranking the captaincy right now, I'd personally have Salah above Palmer. I think Isak and Haaland also arguably above Palmer, to be fair. I'd probably put Salah first still, despite Forest being a good side. As for Drafthound, they're currently recommending Colwell to Hall, and they said it last week, and to be honest, it's a good transfer. Also, Veltman or Robinson to Hall, and Vandenberg. They basically just want Lewis Hall. I do think they'll change that, though, and they'll probably recommend Gordon very soon too. But yeah, I'd like to get Lewis Hall. I might have to wait a little bit longer, though. And they currently think Jackson in for Chris Wood. So yeah, I'm kind of in agreement with the starting 11, the captaincy as well. Isak over Palmer for the vice-captaincy, but that might come back to bite me for this week because, yeah, if Salah does miss out, and by that I mean if Liverpool versus United is postponed tomorrow, yeah, my new vice-captain is Isak, and I did change it from Palmer, so I do lose out on 2 points as a result. As for projected price changes, let's actually refresh this. Oh my god, yeah, Isak is going up in price again. So is Gordon, Milenkovic, and Savio. As for projected price falls, Jackson, Madison, Son, Hudson-Odoi, Mazraoui, Joao Gomez, Emerson Palmieri, Estupinian, Pinnock, Saka, Veltman, Tete, Pope, Smith, Minter, Eric Bonham, Beleba, Mario Jr., Vestergaard, Willock, Target, Virgil van Dijk, Fraser, Bentley, Fofana, Lindstrom, Almiron. Yeah, then the rest are kind of irrelevant. Madison, who got an assist today. Anthony, Rodri, and Holding. So, yeah, fewer projected price changes compared to earlier today. But, yeah, still quite significant, especially in terms of price falls. Let's look at the most captain player. What a surprise. It's Salah again with 97.74% of captains in the top 100k. But I think what could be very important here is the vice-captaincy. I just wish I'd kept on Palmer. 2-point difference, but still. So Palmer is the top vice-captain with Isak in second, Watkins third, Mbeumo fourth, and Haaland in fifth. Those with Mbeumo or Haaland will be feasting if the game is called off tomorrow. And let's actually go to fpl.team, one of the best websites to visualize future game weeks. So what I'm currently thinking about is Jackson to a cheaper forward, and this could be João Pedro again. Let's jinx the Brazilian one more time. And then I can buy Anthony Gordon for Antoine Semenyo and still have money left in the bank to make future moves. So I'm not a big fan of starting Colwill. Even the double Arsenal defence against Tottenham, not a big fan of that, but at least it's at home. So yeah, that looks pretty good for Game Week 21. Then in Game Week 22, I could do something like this. And of course, it's all provisional. Things will change. Bench Mbeumo for the only time. It's Liverpool at home. That's the only reason why I do it. João Pedro's got a good record against United, but it is away. But yeah, 2-point firmly in the bank. Colwill at home to Wolves. Yeah, nah. Fucking. I think he's also worth getting rid of. Now, I could buy Trent or Konate, but if it was to be Trent, it would probably require Raya to Pickford, which could be done in time for the double in Game Week 24-25. He does play Tottenham at home, whilst Arsenal play Aston Villa. Not ideal, and it's back-to-back hits, but that allows me to buy Trent. I can bench Colwill. It's not necessary, but just an aggressive set of moves, and that's what I'm thinking about at the moment. But basically, if I had kept João Pedro and sold Jackson, I would have been able to avoid a hit. It's been the story of the Christmas period, basically. I've been too trigger happy, and it has cost me big time. But those are some initial transfer plans I've got in mind to set up for the double in 24-25, which is likely, and also to buy Anthony Gordon and Trent Alexander-Arnold. But if I decide to sell for Konate, which is a possibility for me, I could avoid a hit, at least. And yeah, we can actually keep Raya for now, maybe buy Pickford for free at some stage before Game Week 24 or 25, and instead just do Veltman to Konate. And to be fair, Brentford away isn't a great fixture, so it's not like he's a big upgrade on Colwill, but Trent any day of the week would be much better than the Chelsea centre-back. But that's my provisional plans, let's say. A lot is up in the air, and I'll talk about this in my team selection once the Sunday games are completed, and we've got more of a clearer picture with the Carabao Cup and FA Cup games in between. Let's also go to FPL Challenge, where I'm on 33 points, so it's 26 on screen, and then 7 additional ones through bonus. Sells and goal yet to play, same with Trent, Robinson and Salah, who might not actually play at all in the case of the Liverpool players. Gvardiol blanked with the late West Ham goal through Fulkrug. Palmer with 9 points. Isak 7, got booked when he got subbed off, a bit of a shame. Watkins was a disappointment. I actually had Mbeumo, so ideally, if I had not done Mbeumo to Haaland, yeah, if only I just got rid of Watkins instead, but bloody hell, who cares? It's FPL Challenge, it's a bit of fun. But yeah, Gvardiol a mistake. City are still poor defensively. I actually thought City would keep a clean sheet. My prediction was 3-0. Not too far off, but yeah, didn't get the clean sheet in the end from the Croatian. And that's pretty much it. Let's go to my camera and zoom in on my disappointed face as Arsenal have once again let me down in my life. What has changed? Nothing. Nothing's changed. What a surprise. Geotip says Diaz to Gordon. I think Gordon is an upgrade, but I'm not so sure if I'd make that move next week. I guess it makes sense. It's Forest away and Brentford away. Not the easiest of games. Brentford will give up chances. Will Diaz start both? Maybe not. Yeah, I think Gordon's fine. Yeah, it's a good upgrade. I'd do it, but it's not necessary. Sell Jackson to Mateta. I mean, on his current form, I don't blame you for thinking it. I'd probably keep Jackson for now. But if that move allows you to buy Gordon or one of these transfer targets elsewhere, do it. It all depends on that. I played Pedro for almost 10 weeks straight. Him for his only 2 returns. Classic FPL. Yeah. I started him last week, but I sold him this week, of course, so still frustrated by him. Just like Semenyo, who is mentioned here by Rijal. Sold Mbeumo for Semenyo, Rodgers for Ahmad, and Pedro for Jackson. I need to retire from FPL. Yeah, I'm not sure when you sold Mbeumo to Semenyo, but I've been quite consistent on it. I know Semenyo's cheaper, but Bournemouth's fixtures coming up are poor. Semenyo himself is an FPL troll. He returns when you least expect him to. I just think Mbeumo is a set and forget option, so I don't blame you for doing those moves. But yeah, for example, Mbeumo to Semenyo, that's the only one I disagree with. The other 2 I think were quite reasonable. albeit Rodgers for me. Even on my wildcard video, I suggested having him as part of your setup. I just like Rodgers a lot. Martinelli going forward, FPL-wise, I'd avoid. Inconsistent player. He's not going to start every game. Yeah, you're going to get much better value from Gordon. Even Diaz, who's not going to start every game either, but at least you'll get more consistency from him. Munoz or Milenkovic? This week, definitely Munoz. It all depends on timing, though, because if I'm buying a defender in Game Week 22, I'll probably buy Milenkovic or Aina to target that Southampton fixture. But yeah, if I'm buying one this week or to start, it's Munoz. Should I sell Odegaard for Savio or Gordon? Gordon. But Savio's a nice differential. That's definitely one to look at. But Gordon is my favourite midfielder to invest in right now. Should I replace Jackson and Semenyo for Joao Pedro and Gordon? Yes. And I like Jackson still, but he's not justifying the price tag right now. Jason Phillips says, hi Dylan, I have Gabriel, Gvardiol, Van Heck, Robinson and Fass in the defence. Got 2 free transfers. Is it necessary to bring in Munoz or Hall for Game Week 21 or roll? Well, you could start Gabriel, Gvardiol, Robinson and that's fine, but I would probably bolster that defensive line. I think long-term Lewis Hall is better than Munoz. I'd go for Lewis Hall and I'd replace Van Heck for now. And in the future, you can also replace Fass for Munoz or Robin. Well, no, you got Robinson, sorry. You could maybe go to, let's see, in your case, I still like Aina or Milenkovic long-term. So Game Week 22, that could be a good transfer. But yeah, Lewis Hall for me, in for Van Heck. That is the best thing to do. Let's go back to my FPL team. I think the bonus points should be added by now. And indeed they are. Indeed they are. So I might go to FPL Challenge again, just to show you the updated points. But yeah, Vandenberg, 10 point on the bench. Amazing. Fantastic. Thank you so much, mate. The other clean sheet and return he got against Everton, he was also on my bench, and so was Mikolenko that week. Yeah, not too happy with the bench points recently, but it is what it is. Yeah, Ashwin, I'm not even cooked if the Liverpool game doesn't go ahead, but I would rather it does. In my mini league, I've got people vice-captaining in Boomer with a triple captaincy and stuff like that. Fuck it. Nah, I don't want to see that shit. So Jackson for Gakpo -4. Very unlucky, and I don't think selling Jackson is a bad idea, given Chelsea's recent form. I would wait, but ultimately Gordon in for Odegaard is an upgrade. No doubt about it. All right, thank you. I've got Gordon, so I may try and go for Trent if Jackson blanks again. I think that's the way to go. And I wouldn't be in a rush to buy Trent or Konate just yet. I think Liverpool could concede against Forest and Brentford. Thank you, Joe. Hold Enzo and Jackson. I'd keep Jackson if you can, but like I mentioned earlier, if budget is an issue, I think selling Jackson is fine. I'd definitely look to sell Enzo, though. I was never keen on him, even when he had that purple patch of 5 to 7 games. KFC Boy says, Raya Slicker? Is that Alison Becker? I'm being stupid. Robinson, Lewis, Gabriel, Aina, Dunk, Enzo, Palmer, Bruno, Salah, Rodgers, Wood, Raul, Isak. Any tips? I'm trying to save some for slot. Yeah, so I'll be honest. Next week, yeah, you could start Gabriel, Dunk, and Lewis. Although Ipswich Town, I think, will probably score against Brighton. Yeah, Palmer, Bruno, Salah, Rodgers, that's fine. You could start Enzo if you wanted to, but I think Bournemouth is a decent team. Raul, Isak up front. Yeah, look, it's a good team. I think for this week specifically, you might be able to do an upgrade. So maybe Enzo Fernandez. I don't know what your budget is, but if you've got 2 million in the bank, Enzo to Gordon is perfect. I'd make that move, but I very much doubt that's the case. Yeah, I'm currently playing Cyberpunk and also Elden Ring, but I'm focusing more on Cyberpunk. It's one of my favorite games of the late PS4/early PS5 generation. Sell Jackson to Mateta. I'd keep Jackson. I'd keep Jackson personally, but I might look to sell him myself because of the reasons I discussed earlier. NP striker to Jesus plus Enzo to Mbuma for free. I wouldn't be buying Gabriel Jesus personally. I think he's far too inconsistent. He's going to be frustrating. Missed a few big chances today. I'd rather buy Cunha long term. The jump I have on now is Santa's Little Helper, The Simpsons, says Twisted Parky. Nice one. I think that's in reference to the shirt discussions earlier. Yeah, I just covered that, Safir. Isak, Gordon, Savio, and I think Milenkovic are projected to rise. Better than AI. Better than AI. If I had an Alexa, I'd call it Dylan. Well, thank you. I think most people would prefer a woman talking. It's more reassuring maybe and better to listen to, but thank you. Steve says Foden and Iwobi to Gorgon and Diaz. I wouldn't sell Foden if you can for the next couple of weeks. He hasn't been great, but he has upped the attacking output recently. But yeah, Iwobi to Gordon, great move. I'd do it. I was very tempted to do it last week, mate, with a wild card. Probably late in the season. I'll reassess this, but maybe around game week 30, 32. And set up a bench boost in 33. That's my current plan. It's provisional. Nothing's settled. Keep Oso and Waneri. I mean, as a fifth midfielder, 4.5 million. I think he's fine to keep. He was subbed off due to injury, though, so keep an eye out for that. But I wouldn't start him week in, week out. Yeah, Savio's a punt. Absolutely fine. It's just Man City's upcoming fixtures are poor. I still think they've been quite fortunate in the last 2 games. They should have considered more goals, and I think they haven't controlled those games. But of course, they are back to winning ways. They've won back-to-back matches. So, yeah, they've got a chance of finishing top 4 again. And they've got the most quality in the league, still, in my opinion, besides maybe Liverpool. Diaz to Gordon, yes, but it's not a necessary transfer. I still think Diaz is fine. Michael says, this is my starting 11. What would you recommend? 1 free transfer. I think that's fine. Do I think Pickford keeps a clean sheet? Probably not, but I wouldn't rule it out. Kirk's away to Chelsea. I don't think that's terrible. Yeah, it's a good starting 11, mate. I'm just curious what your bench is. I think we could find a transfer to make there, but with 1 free transfer, the ideal scenario is to roll. Congratulations on the 0.09 that captain and Boomer. Yeah, and those that vice captain him are jammy little twats, but that's what the vice captaincy is there for, isn't it? Foden or Gordon? Gordon, without a shadow of a doubt. My Game Week 21 bench is Wood, Gabriel, Robinson. Yeah, it is bench boostable, but 2 of them have tough fixtures, in my opinion. I think, as good as Arsenal are defensively, Spurs can score, and then you look at Chris Wood against Liverpool. Yeah, Saul no shots today, 0.00 XG. His creativity stats were decent. I think against Southampton he definitely should have returned there, but yeah, I made a mistake buying him. I don't think he's a terrible pick. I don't suddenly think he's, awful and you should sell, but I just should have bought Gordon. It's as simple as that. I vice captain Isak. He lost bonus points because he got a yellow card. Exactly. Yeah. I was actually quite happy about that when it happened, but with the Liverpool game possibly off and it looking more likely now, yeah, I regret it. And I should have vice captain Palmer, but who cares? Would you go Munoz or Hall for Vandenberg or Mikalenko? I keep Mikalenko. He's got a double coming up very soon. Everton still have a good defence. Vandenberg out. Don't let the 10-pointer fool you. Don't let it gaslight you. Sell Vandenberg, and I'd personally go to Lewis Hall. Munoz is fine. I think either is a good upgrade, but Vandenberg to sell, yeah. Yeah, that's been covered as well in terms of the wild card. I should have kept the penalty taker, but Brian's results and his blanks were depressing. Yeah, and look, in my personal opinion, it was never a penalty, so a bit of luck there with the João Pedro return, but he had a good performance. He played very well today. Islam says, sell Jackson to Mateta or Cunha. Long-term Cunha. I just think he's fixture-proof. He's a bonus points machine. And Mateta, besides today's goal, has been very frustrating this season. Music Kiwi says 46 with Pedro coming on for Rodgers. Fair play. Praying for the Liverpool game to go ahead. I'm not praying, but I hope it does go ahead, yeah. Jackson to Wood. Would bench Wood for Rodgers next week or hold on to him for 1 more and play him over Rodgers? I'd probably hold on to Rodgers for 1 more week, because that also gives you more time to assess. You might actually find yourself wanting to make another move elsewhere. So, yeah, I'd hold on to Rodgers. Sorry, I'd hold on to Jackson for now. I'm thinking of Jackson and Gordon to Mbumo and Solanke. Really? Selling Gordon? I know you're talking about 24, but no. Ideally, you'd have Gordon and Mbumo. I get where you're coming from, though. Maybe you have that sort of structure where you've only got 1 mid-price midfielder. But I try to find a way to fit both Mbumo and Gordon. Covered already, mate. I'd go for Gordon over Foden. I think that's not a debate. I was struggling for a defender, so played hard with Bellis against the Brentford side that are hopeless away, and handsomely paid me a -1. Yeah, good score though. 48 points is nice, especially if you've got players left. I thought Southampton would score, and that's why Vandenberg's on my bench, so bit of a shame. No transfer been made, or Adil. I'll probably wait, and I did say this earlier. Will João Pedro come on for Rodgers? Yeah. It also depends though. Nah, it's not a defender thing. Nah, you're fine. Yeah, Howson's a decent choice. It's just, I think with Bournemouth defenders, Howson and Kirkes, I think they're worth holding on to, but I wouldn't be looking to invest fresh. I'd rather chase the upside with Hall, Munoz, Robinson, etc. I just think with Bournemouth, on paper at least, there aren't many clean sheets on the horizon, but they went to Old Trafford, kept a clean sheet. They also kept one against Tottenham recently, and Howson got 15 points, so not a bad option. The best replacement for Jackson are Isak, Cunha, Chris Wood, João Pedro. I guess that's the top 4 to replace him. I think Jackson is better than João Pedro, don't get me wrong, but with the extra funds, you can buy Gordon and all these players elsewhere. Should I look at goalkeeper transfers or wait? Depends who your goalkeeper is. If it's Raya, I'd definitely wait. I think he's still one of the best goalkeepers in the game, but the lack of returns away from home is a big concern. Who to replace Odegaard with for long term? I cannot purchase Gordon as I've got Murphy, Isak and Hall. Mbeumo then. He's the best long-term replacement. I don't like him for the next 2, especially in Gameweek 22 against Liverpool, but long-term, Mbeumo is the 3rd best midfielder in the game. Thank you, Jason. Jackson to Wood or wait a week? Yeah, I just covered this, didn't I? Yeah, I just keep Jackson for now. It just depends, really. I'd rather have 5 like consistent midfielders, so to speak, so a Rodgers and then Mbeumo, Gordon, Salah, Palmer. But Nwaneri is fine to keep long-term for now. He did come off with an injury, so just wait for the updates. I can keep Martinelli for Tottenham, but to get Gordon, I'd have to sell Jackson to maybe Cunha. I'd probably do that. I'd buy Cunha and get Gordon personally. Sal to Gordon or roll? I could do that myself for free, and I probably should have just done that in the first place. It depends who your other midfielder is. If you've got Semenyo, I'd rather sell Semenyo to Gordon, and if you are priced out of it, I'd find a way to fund it, which might include selling Jackson. Hey, love the content. I have Foden. Gordon will likely be rising. No, because Foden is more expensive, and unless you think that 0.1 million you lose out on will cost you in terms of future moves, I'd rather just wait because you've got Sunday matches tomorrow. You've also got the Carabao Cup and FA Cup games in between the deadlines. I'd wait. Is Cunha a good move when he has Forest, Newcastle, Chelsea, Arsenal, Villa, Liverpool? They're terrible fixtures. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. Wolves are near the bottom for the FDR, but Cunha's fixture-proof. He scored against Arsenal away last year. He scored a hat-trick at Stamford Bridge last season. Even this year, he scored against United, although they are terrible at the moment. I just think Cunha's fixture-proof. Against Villa, I think he scored earlier this campaign. And look, obviously the Forest game, that isn't really, it doesn't count because he's missed that anyway because of the suspension. Newcastle away, I think he can score. Chelsea, to be honest, the only game I look at and I think Cunha's going to blank for sure is Liverpool away. If it was at home, I still would give him a chance. The rest of them, I think Cunha can do well. And I just think he offers that consistency and fixture-proofness that the other forwards like Jackson maybe don't offer. Sell Odegaard to Bruno Fernandes next game week. I'm not a big fan of Bruno, but that's probably an upgrade, yeah. Z4YD says, I don't know if you've been told this before, but you're so conversationally intelligent, if I shall say. Well, thank you very much. I would be inclined to disagree, but I appreciate the kind words. Mohit says, now that we have reached the halfway point, what is your realistic end-of-season goal for rank? Still the same, to improve on last season, which was my worst rank ever. So, being to the top 100k again, which I've done pretty much every single year, bar last year. So yeah, top 50k is still like the ambitious goal. It's difficult, but I can still do it. I just need to have a bit of luck and also maybe not be too trigger happy with transfers and give my options a bit more time. I've been taking too many hits and pulling the trigger in this Christmas period, and it's backfired every single time. I really don't want Sarr, prefer Eze. However, money is an issue. Well, that's a big concern, right? And if going for Eze means you can't go for Gordon or it deprives you of Trent, that's a big problem. And that's why Sarr for me is probably the better pick. But look, it's about FPL points at the end of the day. And if you prefer Eze, I get it. It's not ideal. But I'm just not sure what the context is in terms of other moves. Hot Potato says, who should be first to go out of Raya and Gabriel? Raya. I still think Gabriel with a set-piece threat is always worth keeping. I know Raya had that spell between gimmicks 1 to 5 where he was impeccable and he was getting so many saves and bonus points, but that hasn't really happened ever since, really. I covered your question, P. Marsh. I don't want to be rude, but I personally advise you to keep Jackson and then delay that Chris Wood move until Game Week 23. Yeah, Game Week 23 or Game Week 22, actually. With Botman back, is it risky to bring in Hall? I don't think so. I see where you're coming from. I think last season that would have been a bigger issue, or even at the beginning of this campaign. But if we look at what's happened in this new season, it's been Kelly or Hall at left back. I personally don't think Lewis Hall gets dropped. Is he going to start every game? No, but I think he's been Newcastle's best defender and best left back. And with Fabian Schär back, I just think it boosts Lewis Hall's chances of starting even more. So, not for me. Botman picked up an injury today. Yeah, he was subbed off. I also think it was a bit of time wasting and also, yeah, kind of lack of match fitness maybe. And, he played a lot of minutes basically. I do think he's fine. But maybe against Arsenal in the Carabao Cup, he's either rested for that or for the weekend. My bench is Fabianski, Chris Wood, Okoli and Burgess. Not terrible. I think Fabianski and Chris Wood are fine. The other two are expendable for sure. No, you can't. So once you use the Assistant Manager chip, you will not be able to use any other chip for 3 game weeks whilst the Assistant Manager chip or Assman chip is active. Selson, yep. I've never liked him in the first place. Can he return big in one of these games coming up? Absolutely, but he's going to blank a lot. I would personally avoid. If they cancel the Liverpool game, my FPL League mates will catch life. Yeah, hopefully they don't. Hopefully they don't. I know somebody who triple captain Salah and vice captain Mbumo. Please, for the love of Christ, do not. Whatever, who cares? Best whistle replacement, I have Isak and Mateta. For me, it's between Cunha, Joao Pedro, and Jimenez, I guess, yeah. I mean, offers good value at the end of the day. Not the best in terms of minutes. Solanke's fine. Jackson is still a good option, but yeah, probably Cunha for me. And to be fair, Chris Wood. I haven't even mentioned Chris Wood. Yeah, Cunha or Chris Wood. Solanke to Joao Pedro to fund Enzo to Gordon, or I can do Enzo to Murphy and get rid of Ivanilson. I would probably do Solanke to Joao Pedro and buy Gordon. And in future, you could do something like, let's see, Ivanilson to Raul Jimenez, or maybe go up to Chris Wood. Do you think Rodgers to Gordon is good, even though Gordon is getting subbed off early? I'd keep Rodgers personally. I think Gordon is an upgrade though. And if that's your only route to Gordon, then I'd pull the trigger. But I think Rodgers is a perfect 8th attacker. And you could argue Joao Pedro is the same up front. So I'd keep Rodgers. If the match doesn't go ahead tomorrow, will the game be closed or open and points will be added later on? No. The points won't be added later on. So let me actually go through the schedule in terms of tomorrow's matches. I'm assuming that's at 4:30 PM UK time, right? Yeah, 4:30 PM UK time. Well, we've got a Monday game, don't forget, Wolves versus Nottingham Forest. So in either case, that's when the game closes upon the completion of Wolves Nottingham Forest. And then once that happens, the bonus points and stuff will be calculated. Liverpool and United will blank, and they will have a double game week later this season. But yeah, it's not like they're going to play in like a week's time or, I don't know, in a few months when the game is rescheduled, if that happens, and they add the points back retrospectively to Game Week 20. That's not the case. That's why we get doubles and blanks. So surprised Arteta benched the likes of Odegaard and Martinelli? Well, I think it was due to the illnesses, mate. And Odegaard hasn't been good recently. Martinelli has been inconsistent for the last year or so. I think subbing off Nwaneri, and it looks like it was an injury, so fair enough, that kind of halted Arsenal offensively, and Martinelli did nothing when he came on. As for Odegaard, he's been poor for several weeks now, ever since the West Ham game, and I do think he was even better against Chelsea when he first came back from injury. Long-term Alexander is Mbeumo, but if you're buying one this week, it's Gordon. That sounds contradictory, but if you're buying Mbeumo now, you have Man City at home, which is fine. I think that's a good fixture for attackers, but then Liverpool at home. I think the best time to buy Mbeumo for non-owners is Game Week 23. As for Gordon, you've got Wolves at home, you've got Southampton away coming up. I would rather go for those fixtures and attack Newcastle's form and Anthony Gordon's consistency. But if we look beyond the next 3-4 game weeks and look until the end of the season, I think Mbeumo will score more points, get more minutes. He's got the penalties. There's so many ticks there for Mbeumo. I think he's the third best midfielder behind Salah and Palmer. Elanga's a decent budget midfielder. I'd rather go for Chris Wood up front. I've always been saying that. Kulusevski, Spurs' best player this season, but FPL-wise, I don't think he'll offer that consistency. Look, he's not a bad option, Kulusevski, but you could also go for Eze or Sarr, not to mention the likes of Rodgers, Gordon, Mbeumo, Diaz. I think they all offer much better value. Odegaard replacements, Gordon. Simple as. ARX says, I guess transferring João Pedro to Wood did not go so well. Yeah, it didn't go well. That's putting it lightly. I still think Chris Wood is better than João Pedro, but I'm probably going to find myself buying him back for Jackson to fund other moves. Yeah, at least he started Kirkes though. That's a good call. Twisted Parky puts his team. Roll or get rid of Jackson, 0.2 in the bank. To be fair, your midfield is basically my favourite midfield 5. Your defenders as well is decent, although, I mean, it's fine to be fair. You might want to add Mikalenko or Pickford for the double, but that's not something you need to do yet. To be honest, I'd probably roll. In the future, though, you might consider Jackson to Cunha or another forward like João Pedro, your boy, and use those funds to maybe upgrade another position. But I don't think you need to. I think you've got a strong team. I'd roll. I'll be honest, I'm not that annoyed about not buying Gordon this week. I mean, yeah, I get where you're coming from. I did say I should have just bought him when talking about Sarr. That was a mistake. But yeah, for this week, not a big deal because, I mean, if I sold Semenyo for Gordon for a hit, it would have been a -4. So I basically would have gained nothing. I just should have bought him earlier. He was frustrating for me earlier this season. Yeah, Odegaard was ill. I think he was actually in bed with illness throughout the whole week and he didn't have any training session. And as for Martinelli, he was also illness related, I think, but also managing minutes. We played 3 days ago, and yeah, I do think Arsenal lost their legs in the second half. Yeah, I mean, look, it's part and parcel of FPL, right? But it is what it is. Hall has been so good and gets forward, he's looking very good. Yeah, I always thought Tottenham would score today, and that's why I recommended benching him in a lot of cases, but you can't win them all. My bench is Fabianski, Chris Wood. I covered that. 49 points, but only players left are Castagna and Salah captain. Yeah, decent score. It might be a red arrow for you, Cyril, depending on where you're at, but hopefully you get a green. How do you play FPL, and could you give us any tips on how to better your game? It's my first season, and I'm 150k. So much FPL content out there, it really helps. Well, thank you, Jack. I mean, you're doing better than me, so don't listen to my advice. Yeah, I mean, how do you play FPL? That's a great question. I mean, how do I? I mean, I just wing it, mate. I just wing it, chat crap, and I get things wrong. That's it. I do base things on a combination of fixtures and form, and I'm more of a form person. I like to think so anyway. One of my good decisions this season is keeping Mbeumo through the tough fixtures, and he's been paying off the faith. But I do sometimes act on impulse, and I make transfers early, or I just think, you know what, I need this player, and it's cost me a lot of points this season, especially since December. So for example, when Saka scored against West Ham and got 18 points, I thought, you know what, I'm buying Saka. I sold Isak, who was flagged, and the rest is history, mate. I lost on 50 points or something. But yeah, I don't have one set way of playing FPL, but I think I like to plan stuff and, you know, think things through, but ultimately, when I feel I need to make a transfer, I do it, and I'm very decisive that way. Then when it comes to certain 50-50 calls, I become indecisive with the captaincy and I overthink benching headaches and stuff like that. But it's stuff that I'm aware of. I know what I'm good at. I know what I'm kind of maybe lackluster at, what I can improve. But yeah, I think I'm very much an impulse manager at times, impulsive. You're going to keep Mbeumo? Absolutely, mate. I mean, he's the third best midfielder in the game. If I didn't have Mbeumo, I wouldn't look to buy him now. Gordon would be the priority, and that's still the case for me, to be fair. But yeah, Mbeumo's a hold, absolutely. He might be benched against Liverpool, but against City, I'm happy to start. Start 2, bench 3, Wood, Iwobi, Castagna, Cole or Saliba. I would start Saliba, and Iwobi maybe. Not a big fan of some of them this week, to be fair. So many has been so frustrating. I want to sell to Gordon, which means I'd have to sell someone else for -4. I'm in the same boat. Mazraoui to Greaves as possible. Not a big fan of that. I know Mazraoui's been useless recently, but Yeah, I try to find something else, even if it's Raya to Pickford, for example. I think that might be the best case scenario. Look, I get it. You know, Haaland's been in good form recently, 3 goals in the last 2. City are showing signs of the old City offensively, albeit they aren't controlling games and they're conceding chances. For me personally, I'm not even thinking about it because I've got other players I want to bring in, like Gordon, Trent, or a Liverpool defender, maybe Pickford / Mikalenko. And I'll be honest with Haaland, it's too much hassle for me. I need to take hits. I need to sell maybe one of Palmer or Salah, and I'm not going to do that just yet. Thank you, P-Marsh. No worries about it. Would you do Sarr to Eze for free? No, I probably wouldn't. I still think Sarr's been playing better overall than Eze this season. But yeah, Eze's getting the returns, of course. I'd only do that sort of transfer if you're happy with the rest of your team and you don't see yourself making other moves. Best keep at the moment is between Pickford and Sells. If I'm buying one now, it's Pickford. Diaz, Jimenez out for Mbeumo, Gordon and Wood. Yeah, absolutely fine. If I'm buying a midfielder, it's Gordon. But Mbeumo long-term is the best midfielder besides Salah and Palmer. If Liverpool blank again, it will make chip strategy key. Yeah, I mean, we'll wait and see. Of course, there's not going to be another stream until the Tuesday deadline. Not this week, but the one after. So, yeah, I'll talk about this in videos and give my thoughts on it, but it could definitely be very impactful with chip strategy. Quite not FPL related, but do you think Ange is the right fit for Tottenham? Feels like a season what Arsenal had when they finished mid-table but won the FA Cup. It's a good question. I mean, one clear distinction, in my opinion, and I'm not being rude, is that Arsenal won the FA Cup, which, look, Arsenal need to do more. I think the Premier League and the Champions League need to be competed for and won. But I think with Spurs, I mean, it's a combination of not getting the trophies and also being mid-table. They're currently 11th. They've lost 10 games in January, which is insane. I do think they're a bit unlucky today. They probably should have got a draw. The first goal shouldn't have stood, by the way. I haven't even mentioned that. I mean, you can argue that, you know, what can Jolinton do? But it hit off his arm, led to the goal. I think it should have been disallowed. But yeah, is Ange the right fit for Tottenham? Stylistically, I think he is. The problem with Ange is that he's not tactically adept. He doesn't adjust to the opponent. Even, like, as much as I have my criticism about Arteta, one thing I'll say about him is that he adapts to the opponents. He's very good tactically. I do think Ange has one way of playing and not any backups. But with the current situation, with the injuries and the suspensions and illnesses, you can sympathise with him a little bit. And then when you factor in the refereeing performance, yeah, I think today they were unlucky, but 10 losses in January, that's not because of refs. That's because Spurs are terrible defensively. Why would anyone triple captain Salah when we know they probably have a double in a few weeks? Well, they're a Liverpool fan and they've been in good form FPL-wise recently. Ask him. I mean, he's going to get Mbeumo vice-captain, triple captain, whatever. Bloody twat. Raya to Sells? Nah, I wouldn't do that this week. No chance. Not when they're facing Liverpool. If you were to sell Raya, it would be to Pickford. In preparation for the double, you also fund Gordon or something else. I keep talking about Gordon. Sell Odegaard? Yep. I'd skip Odegaard. I'd sell him. I don't think he's a good FPL asset right now. Same here, Joe. He's more frustrating because I sold him, but also because he scored against my team, and I don't think it was a penalty, but there you go. I did say this about Joao Pedro before. Check my recent Transits podcast. I said he's a hold. If not, it's actually the one before they played Aston Villa, actually. And I had him for that, thankfully, but it's just typical Brighton, typical Joao Pedro. Blanks against the worst teams, hauls against the best ones. Mohit says, I've seen people triple captain Salah this week. Their vice captain is one of Palmer Isak. Shouldn't they have reasons to be absolutely livid? Oh yeah, those people definitely, but if they triple captain Mbeumo or vice captain him, that's a different story. But in that case, yeah, maybe it's compensated a little bit by Van den Berg off the bench or Joao Pedro. Mark C says, I need to get rid of Odegaard and I already have Gordon. That's a great question. I mean, you could definitely make some sort of aggressive play, buy Eze or Sarr short term and then move to Mbeumo. I just buy Mbeumo now in that case. Would you play Forest defenders versus Liverpool? No. Liverpool have the best attack in the league. They obviously kept the clean sheet at Anfield, but yeah, Liverpool are looking too good right now. I don't think I'm going to bench Mbeumo and probably not Wood either in any fixture. That's fair. I'm also not looking to jinx them against Liverpool, but who cares at this point? They've probably won the title anyway. Fairs, then I knew Spurs had loads of illnesses, not Arsenal. Maybe Spurs spread it to the enemy. Yeah, no, I just think it's a I know some people as well, myself and family members who are ill right now. I think it's just something going around. But yeah, Spurs have a lot of problems. I think Son and Madison were ill. In the case of Arsenal, Odegaard, Martinelli, Havertz, who's missed 2 successive games. Big miss today. Who's better as a pick from Gameweek 24? Mbeumo over Gordon, yeah. I don't think Joao Pedro's amazing. Don't get me wrong. I'm not going to say suddenly, oh, you have to get him. No. Is he the ideal third forward, 8th attacker? Probably. I think he's a decent option. He's going to be inconsistent. He's a 22-year-old. He's got talent. He played very well today. Yeah, I think he's fine. And I might do Jackson to Joao Pedro for the reasons described before. 1, fixtures. 2 to jinx. And 3 to fund other moves. Free transfer for me. Are there any must-buys? I don't know who you have already, mate, but in the midfield, I'd be looking at Mbeumo, Gordon long-term, apart from the obvious Salahs and Palmers of the world. Up front, Isak. Then you're looking at Wood, Cunha. Maybe you look at Joao Pedro. Defensively, Trent, Gabriel. A Forest defender long-term, Mikalenko, Hall, Munoz. I know you can't get all of them, by the way, just throwing some names out there. Robinson. If you've got a Bournemouth defender, I'd keep them for now. That includes Howson and Kirkes, but the likes of Semenyo, Evanosson, etc. are probably sellable for me. Hi Dylan, do you expect Sarr to return against Leicester next week? Yeah, but he has been frustrating. Do we move away from double Arsenal defence? Yeah, I'd go for Pickford. Double coming up very soon, probably in 24 or 25. And Pickford's the ideal goalkeeper. You just start him every week, you forget about it. He might get battered from time to time, but then he'll get a clean sheet against Arsenal, away from home, against Chelsea, or saves a penalty against Haaland. This is my team, says Z4YD. After wildcarding in 21, sells Fabianski, Robinson, Trent, Gabriel, Mikalenko, Greaves, Ahmad, Sarr, Salah, Mbeumo, Palmer, Isak, Wood, Joao Pedro. Really good team. I would suggest a few changes though. Sells to Pickford. I know you've got Mikalenko already, but with that double coming up very soon and Forest's fixtures being quite poor, I'd rather go for Milenkovic if you can, and you could do Greaves to Milenkovic, for example. But I do recognise that if you made that transfer, sells to Pickford, you'd be priced out by 0.1 million actually. But you could maybe do Mikalenko to Milenkovic, Greaves to a 4.2 to 4.4 million defender. That could be Howson, although it's not ideal to invest in him now. That's still decent. You could also go to Castagna or Anderson. And then if you do that, maybe Robinson to Munoz could be a solution for you. But sells to Pickford, I'd maybe bring in a Forest defender if you make that sort of transfer. It's really nitpicky, by the way, but Greaves, I'd definitely improve on him, if you can. And Ahmad to Rodgers is another transfer I'd like to make. I've been talking about Gordon all day. Ideally, I'd also invest in him. But overall, good team, very solid, not many complaints. If you also want to buy Gordon and can't find a way, you might want to consider Trent to Konate, which isn't ideal, but I think Konate can offer great value in the double coming up. Is Jackson a sell? And if so, who would be the best replacements? I'm not saying on the fence here, but it's team dependent. I think if you want to buy a midfielder or defender who's kind of out of your reach and you need a cash cow, I'd sell Jackson and go to Chris Wood, Cunha, or Joao Pedro, for example. But in isolation, I think Jackson is still one of the best forwards in the game. So if it's not really impacting your other moves, I keep him for now. Martin says Martinelli to Gordon and Jackson to whom? Cunha for me. Cunha or Chris Wood, long term. Transfers came in, trumps this game week and some. Bowen and Mateta to Mbeumo and Wissa -4. 71 from 8, any good? Yeah, that's a very good score. Despite only having 3 players left, I'd rather have the points in the bag than players in hand. Haaland will get hauls, but he's still not worth the money just yet. I agree. Take this week, for example, it allows me to have Isak. Would I not have otherwise? And have him and no Mbeumo and stuff like that? It's exactly that, you know. Without Haaland, you can spread the team out and have more consistent options in each position. If you've got him, you have to settle for some budget options who will be inconsistent. Do I hold Wissa? I don't mind him against City, but against Liverpool he's benchable and he missed 4 big chances today. Yeah, Chelsea's form is slipping. They've dropped points in 4 consecutive games. I still like Palmer. He's non-negotiable. He's still the second best midfielder in the game. But Jackson is kind of flirting between a hold and a sell. I think Colwill is expendable. Sanchez in goal too. despite how depleted Spurs were, thought they did well. Yeah, I think they deserved a draw, or at least they could have got a draw. And maybe that goal that stood by Anthony Gordon was quite costly, actually. Hardly any managers adapt to opponents anymore. They do the same every week because they believe in their philosophy. I do think a lot of managers now are, I mean, maybe I'm wrong about this. I do think they're more maybe tactically astute and aware. I do think they adapt more. I think we saw more stubborn managers in the past, even Arsene Wenger, who is my favourite manager of all time. He was very stubborn. I do think Ange Postecoglou, in terms of how he sets up his team defensively, there is no structure, or at least the structure isn't that good. It isn't confirmed that the game is cancelled, but it's looking more likely now. You're right, Dylan. I expected Joao Pedro to do better in these tougher fixtures. I just thought maybe Jackson worth the hold, and I missed Wood. Yeah, I completely agree. It's pretty much my situation. I'm ill too. Get well soon, Twister Parky. I hate being ill myself, especially when I've got videos and streams to make. Or just go into work. Which players are on your radar for the upcoming transfers in and out over the next few game weeks, except Gordon? Trent or Konate in the defence. Pickford in goal. If not, Mikalenko, especially if Everton double in 24-25. And up front, if I replace Jackson, I'm looking at Cunha, Joao Pedro. And maybe I'd go a bit different with Gakpo or Mateta, but yeah, it's most likely going to be Cunha or Joao Pedro for me. Two players I sold in the last couple of weeks. Mike says, I took a gamble and picked up Odegaard 2 weeks ago and I'm regretting it now. Thinking of getting Gordon to catch the price rise. That's fair enough. Just bear in mind that Arsenal and Newcastle play each other midweek, and you've also got FA Cup games, so there's a lot up in the air over the next couple of days, so it's going to be a bit risky to make that move now, but ultimately I would make it. Kluivert to Mbeumo and Jackson to Wood? Yeah. Not a big fan of Wood in Game Week 21, but it's a good transfer long term. It's snowing in Liverpool. Not great to hear, but no surprise. Dylan, who's the person who triple captain Mbeumo? Well, he triple captained Salah, but if the game is postponed, he will have Mbeumo as his vice, as his new triple captain. It's a friend from uni. He's a Liverpool fan. Fuck him. I'm just joking. Why do you want to jinx Pedro so much? Well, one, because he scored against Arsenal, and also, for me, it was a BS penalty. Two, because FPL-wise, he's been frustrating for me. And three, why not? Kind of a wasting of transfers, Dylan, says Batman. Thoughts on Diaz, says Anshuk. Same as before. When he does play, he's going to get returns, but Mbeumo and Gordon, for me, are probably the more reliable picks in terms of minutes. Can't really do anything else to get Gordon unless I do Jackson back to Pedro or Wood. Yeah, which is not the worst thing in the world. I thought Jackson could score against Palace and restore a bit of faith in that Chelsea attack, but he's been woeful recently. Who's more likely to get double-digit hauls between Palmer and Haaland? Palmer. He just needs one goal. And let's say, for example, Chelsea keep a clean sheet, free bonus, that's 10 points. So still Palmer for me. But based on recent form, you could definitely make a case the other way, but I'm going to stick with Palmer. Sold Solanke and Joao Pedro. I do have Mbeumo, though. Yeah, not ideal, but at least you've got Mbeumo there in place. I just transferred Son out for Savio. I think anyone's an upgrade on Son right now, but don't be surprised if he scores against Arsenal in a couple of weeks' time. Pickford made 7 saves today and was close to keeping another clean sheet. Yeah, he's the best goalkeeper in the game still for me. Sells is probably second and Raya third. The Liverpool game isn't off yet. We will get an announcement tomorrow either way. Hopefully the snow eases off and we don't get the rain issues tomorrow. But it's not looking good. Took upon an Iwobi. Yeah, I did say this before for people that were looking to invest in Fulham offensively. I think if you go for Iwobi and he blanks, you're probably going to regret it very soon. He's not a bad option, but I'd rather go for Rodgers. I've been very consistent on that. Yeah, exactly that. Storm Dara the other week, or now you've got snow and rain combining. Hopefully the Christmas tree comes into effect. It's not happening, is it? It's either Jackson or Mazraoui out for a -4. Mazraoui never starts for me. That's fair enough. If you want to keep Jackson a deal, I'd sell Mazraoui. I'm just not a big fan of Greaves. If we were talking about Mikalenko, Howson, someone like that, Castagna or Anderson even, I'd be very bullish on it. But at Greaves, fair enough, they're not playing for you, but I just like that defensive depth if possible. Yeah, I see where you're coming from. It's a shame that Everton can't score at all. They have 15 goals in 19 games. Yeah, very tough to break down, but Everton's goal scoring that's the main reason why they're in a relegation fight. Yeah, Mbuma is worth bringing in, but I do think it's better to transfer him in around Game Week 23, mate. Well, mate, if I knew I could jinx Liverpool, I'd do it 100%, but I just haven't been able to this season. Not yet, anyway. Thank you, Safir. Oh, yeah. No worries, Mr. Pocky, no worries. Mark C says, would you consider getting McNeil for the upcoming double game week? If he's fit, it might cross my mind, especially as a non-Rodgers owner, but yeah, I think my priority is Pickford and then Mikalenko/Young, but yeah, not something that's like on the top of my agenda at the moment. Hall's a good asset to own. Not only is he attacking, but he's on corners and some free kicks. Yeah, no, Lewis Hall is still a great option to hold. This one blank out of the last 6, last 5, he's still a great option. Declan with his team, 0.1 million in the bank. So, yeah, good team. I think the ones to possibly sell are Van den Berg, Kluivert, maybe Jackson to fund other moves, but that's a good team. Yeah, I think Sar's a keep, but I do regret buying him. I'm not going to lie to you. But yeah, he's still worth keeping for now. Should I bench Wood for Rodgers next game week? Yeah, that would be my take on it. 70 points with 2 to play, says Dominus. Captain in Mbeumo. Wow, fair play. Great points. Not many players left, but you should be fine. Mbeumo's paid off well and worth the hold for you, Dylan. Yeah, one of the few, pats on the head I'm going to do, give myself. Is that even a thing? Yeah, apart from that, still a bit disappointed. Buying Salah last week, keeping Semenyo, benching him at the wrong time, double Arsenal defence, triple Chelsea. There's a few things I'm a bit unhappy about, but take the green arrow for now and hopefully secure it on Sunday. Yeah, probably Mohit. I just think that Saka injury nailed the coffin for Arsenal's title hopes, and they showed their lack of ambition in the summer. And I said at the time, but I was still hopeful because Arsenal started the season relatively well, but it's all gone tits up since October, unfortunately. Salah has more goals than Everton. It's crazy. And I don't think Haaland's far off. In fact, I think he's got the same amount, 15 goals. Solanke or Gakpo? Long term is close, actually. I'd arguably say Solanke. I do think Gakpo could be rotated from time to time. I think Gordon did. He had a lot of blood. Should have been a penalty if you're going to give the João Pedro one, by the way. But yeah, I'm not sure if he broke his nose, but something happened there, definitely. Adil says, alternatively, I could not do a -4 for Gordon and start Ahmad versus Southampton. I'd probably do that, mate. As much as I like Gordon, I think Ahmad is worth holding and starting against Southampton. I think with United, Ahmad offers good value, but would you really buy him in? Not really. I think those that have Fernandes you keep, but I think Gordon, Mbeumo and Diaz are the best mid-price midfielders to invest in. I think with Spurs, Solanke up front is decent, but yeah, Spurs will always score goals, but not the best team to really invest in. Can't remember, you mentioned the best defense so far, Aina. Yeah, when I made a provisional team of the season so far, I put Aina at right back, but I did recognise that it could easily be Trent. I think Forest should have 1 or 2 players in there. Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't really change anything from earlier today, but it's not really worth doing these half the season stages, team of the season. It's best to do at the end. Do you think the match will be off? Earlier today I said no, I thought the game would go ahead, but now it looks more likely. 60-70% likely that it won't go ahead. So let's see. 45 points so far and 5 players played. That's good. That's pretty good. Sell Kirkes, Gavardio or Martinez for Trent this week. I'd rather sell Martinez, assuming that's Lisandro. Yeah, it must be. Was thinking of selling Greaves to Mikalenko in preparation for this double. Yeah, that's a good transfer. You don't need to make it yet, though. If you've got good defensive depth and you're not going to play this defender anyway, you could just save that for later as we approach Game Week 24 or 25. It's a good fixture for the Brentford attackers, Man City, but not for the defenders. I would not, definitely don't start Van den Berg and Flecken if you can, although Flecken made a lot of saves against City in the last 2 meetings, or at least before this season. Yeah, Mbeumo Wissa, fine. I wouldn't be looking to start anyone else. Sanchez to Dubravka. I will not be buying Dubravka because Pope is going to be back fairly soon. And with Newcastle, you might find yourself wanting to triple up with Isak, Gordon and Lewis Hall. Thoughts of Iwobi, Ralph for tomorrow match? I think one of them will return. My prediction was for Jimenez to score. Iwobi could do something, and he's been a great player for Fulham this season, but yeah, he's not the kind of FPL asset you kind of back to Hall, if you kind of get what I mean. He kind of returns when you least expect them to. Oh, my vice captain's on Saliba. Unlucky, mate. Is it worth doing Kulusevski to Mbeumo or just hold? I think Kulusevski's decent, but Mbeumo's an upgrade. I'd do the transfer eventually, so this week I don't really mind. It's just you got Liverpool at home shortly afterwards, but yeah, in this case, I'd buy Mbeumo. Eraser 2004 says, had Martinelli and Buonanotte for 1 pointers. First 2 bench players are Milenkovic and Ahmad. Watch them haul. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I get what you're saying there. That is very unfortunate. Yeah, I could see Milenkovic doing well. Ahmad, no. I'd be shocked if he did something. Twisted Parky says, I had ESR and McNeil for the other budget when we all had Haaland, but for me, Rodgers is too good and nobody else at his level. Yeah, I like Murphy. Fernandes had that purple patch, but I was never that keen on him. Elanga's a decent differential, but I agree with you. Rodgers is the best at that price and below. Murphy's the only one to compete for me. I want goalkeeper for a long time. Pickford. There you go. Yeah, right to Pickford. I'd probably wait. If that allows you to make another transfer, that's absolutely fine, but I'd probably wait because Raya's going to play in midweek against Newcastle in the Carabao Cup semi-final. Bench Wissa or Rodgers. That's close. I'd be tempted to start Rodgers, but it's 50-50 almost. I think Wissa can do well against City. He scored in the reverse fixture, of course. Is it worth doing Enzo to Mbeumo and Jackson to Joao Pedro? Yeah, I get that. You know, if you're going to be priced out, doing it soon could work very well. Bear in mind, Jackson is probably going down in price, and Mbeumo, that's pretty much it, though, to be fair. If you've got a bit of wiggle room, wait a little bit if possible. Yeah, I just covered Murphy. He's the best at that price and below, but if I'm making a wildcard team now, I'd probably go for Rodgers. The guy with the highest points took a minus 68. Yeah, but he's not going to win the Manager of the Month, sorry, the Manager of the Week award because hits are taken into account there. Kulusevski's starting to seem like a dirty player to me. Well, yeah, there was that incident with Gordon, but so is Jolinton, to be fair, if you kind of go both ways there. Bench 1, Gameweek 21, Mbeumo, Wissa, Pedro, Ahmad. Probably one of the Brentford players, but yeah, it's probably Wissa. It would be typical from him, right? To miss 4 big chances today. I know he scored and assisted, but yeah, 4 big chances missed. And then tomorrow, in the next game, he gets like a brace against City. But yeah, Wissa. Who would you bench between Pedro, Ahmad, and Jesus? Gabriel Jesus. I know not everyone's going to be a Liverpool fan at the moment. Looks like they're going to run away with it, but at least City not likely to win this year. Yeah, that's the only upside, I guess. But it's just no competition. If we had a title race at least and a bit of jeopardy, then that's fine. But, you know, Chelsea, you know, they competed for like 1 week, basically. I never thought they were in it. City have fallen off a cliff. And Arsenal just aren't consistent enough, especially away from home. Would you take a hit to get Mbeumo in this week ahead of tough fixtures? Depends who you're selling and also other factors. Yeah, ideally I'd say no. I think the best time to buy Mbeumo is Gameweek 23. Will Arsenal likely bring in a strike in January? I'm not really optimistic, to be fair. If they do, it's going to be a cheap signing, I think, or a loan, you know, something like that. I'm not that confident in the Arsenal ownership. I don't think they showed enough ambition in the summer, and they needed at least 2 attackers. They got Sterling on loan, and they needed a midfielder as well. So, yeah, Arsenal just short. If they went for the players they should have gone for, maybe it'll be a different story. Transfer out Enzo and Jackson to Gordon and Joao Pedro for free. Yep, fine. So even with Wolves fixtures coming up, yeah, for me, it's just you look at Jesus, inconsistent. I think Cunha's fixture proof and he's going to haul every so often. The other 4s I like are Chris Wood and Isak. Jackson's off form. He's still good. I don't think he's terrible, but you know, I wouldn't mind Jackson to Cunha to then Van Gordon. That's what I'm looking at myself. Early transfer for Enzo to Gordon before any price rise. Only if you're going to be priced out, Bilbo Baggins. Yeah, so the Liverpool game could be postponed due to weather conditions. I covered this in the deadline stream earlier today. It's been talked about for over a day or 2. Just replace Saka with Odegaard, turn to replace him with Mbeumo. Yeah. But if you don't have Gordon, I'd rather invest in Gordon now. Long-term Mbeumo's a great transfer though. If Liverpool United gets postponed, what Gameweek would that likely be accommodated to? Probably beyond Gameweek 30, but I don't know all the ins and outs, to be quite honest with you. I'd have to do research and check it out, but I'd assume it could be something like Gameweek 33, if I'm not mistaken. Start Mazraoui or buy Hall? I'd buy Hall. I mean, to be fair, Mazraoui against Southampton, yeah, I'd probably just start Mazraoui, to be fair. Long-term, Hall's a great transfer. When the show top score of the week, it doesn't matter if they have taken hits. Oh, right. I thought the actual winner, though, of the award, you know, and all the gifts and stuff like that, the goodies, ends up, yeah, it's all about hits and stuff. That's factored in. What about Harry Wilson at Fulham? As a short-term pun, he's fine, and I talked about him earlier, actually, when asked about him, but yeah, for me, Rodgers is the best budget midfielder. I have Gabriel and Timber. Should I bench Timber for Cucurella or play with Gabriel and Timber? I don't think Chelsea keep a clean sheet against Bournemouth. Then again, with Arsenal, not that confident in the North London derby defensively. I'd probably go for Timber and Gabriel, but I wouldn't even mind selling Timber and diversifying your defence. Yeah, I'd play Rodgers against Everton. It's not the best fixture, and it could be a low-scoring game, but Rodgers has a decent away record, actually. Josh says, do I go early? Verbruggen to Pickford, Martinez to Trent, Son and Jackson to Gordon and Cunha. Ooh, so let's break it down. Gordon is going to go up in price. Jackson and Cunha could go down. I think Cunha's pretty much settled. Yeah, I'd probably go early in this case. Yeah, I think that makes sense for you. And if you've got squad depth and you get an injury or two, you should be okay. Yeah, I'd probably do it. Worth bringing in Hall for Gabriel, as Arsenal are starting to concede now. I'd still have an Arsenal defender, and I slightly disagree with what you're saying. I get where you're coming from, but Arsenal have still been keeping clean sheets, but it's at home. It's on their travels where they're not keeping the clean sheets. That's 9 successive Premier League games without one, which is a big concern. I'd still encourage you to have one Arsenal defender one way or the other. That could be Raya in goal, and I would rather keep Gabriel if possible. So my advice would be to keep Gabriel, but it always team dependent. Yeah, I did cover it earlier, my sneak peek of Gameweek 21, but yeah, it's all up in the air. There's a lot of transfer plans for me. I'll probably not make an early move, and I'll try to think about it and mull it over for the weekend. Might go early on Enzo to Gordon, that's fair enough, but I'd only do it if you're going to be priced out. Remember, Gordon plays Arsenal in midweek, and there could be an injury. If Liverpool United cancel, my Gameweek is finished. Yeah, I mean, I don't think it affects me too much. I think it does, you know, push me down a little bit in terms of rank, but mini-league wise, it would be a disaster. Who's the number one defender to bring in over the next few game weeks? Probably Trent with the provisional double coming up. If not Konate, he's another one to look out for. Then it's the likes of Robinson, Munoz, and Lewis Hall. I never liked Enzo as an FPL option, but then not really a fan of him. Yeah, look, they're different players, I think. Enzo has more potential than McAllister, but this season, McAllister's arguably, I'd actually say Liverpool's best midfielder. It's between him and Gravenberch. I do think in recent weeks and months, I think McAllister's taken the cake. But yeah, look, Enzo for me is a quality midfielder. Had a great World Cup, and he has his moments. I think defensively he's not great, and he's not the quickest. But technically speaking, I think Enzo's better than McAllister even. You could argue that McAllister's more of a balanced, all-round midfielder. Jason Phillips says, which three to start? Hall, Robinson, Gavardio, Gabriel, Van Heck. Robinson, Hall, and Gabriel at the moment. I didn't know there was an award. Well, yeah, it's like you get goodies, right? Like you win an FPL, you know, mug and a goodies bag, stuff like that. Maybe a copy of FIFA, which is not even a gift. That's literally a pile of crap. Bench one, Gabriel, Van Dijk, Robinson for Gameweek 21. I wouldn't blame you if you benched Gabriel, but I'd personally bench Van Dijk at this moment in time. Yeah, I'm not sure why they show the top scorers with hits, by the way, to Stupaki. That's my guess, by the way. I might be wrong about it, but I'm fairly sure the hits are taken into account. I understand Frankie, but as long as Salah is on the pitch... right, so that's in response to Frankie. Nah, there's no chance Liverpool are fumbling this. It'd be right up there with the biggest bottle jobs in league history, and Arsenal have done a few of them. And Liverpool have as well. I think this might be the top one. Please tell me Murillo won't play a single minute. Not so sure about that, mate. I wouldn't count on it. I couldn't tell you either way, but my guess would be Murillo plays. I'm looking to use my assistant manager chip in Gameweek 24-26 to take advantage of slots extra match. I just don't want to get a headache of figuring out a better time to use it. That's fair enough. And if you don't have the triple captaincy like me, it's quite a simple way of using it. And I'll be honest, I mean, look, I'd rather get FPL points, but to look at the positive side, if Liverpool were to flop, at least, I gain something from it, let's say. But yeah, no, I have to say, for those with no triple captaincy, that's probably the right play. I'm at Wildcard. Do I go for Van Dijk to Konate now so I can get a better forward now, or just use transfers on it after Wildcard and Cunha would? I just wait. Because you might find yourself after Sunday thinking, you know what, I don't want a Wildcard, and I wouldn't kind of tunnel yourself into making early transfers and pushing yourself in a certain direction because you might regret it. Dylan, should we reduce our exposure to Arsenal defence now? Yeah, I think one's still viable. I wouldn't double up, though, on a Wildcard, and I've said that for quite some time now. Yeah, I'd rather diversify, with the likes of Hall, Robinson, Aino, Milenkovic, Trent, or maybe Konate, Gabriel. That's probably what you want to aim for. Yeah, no, I get that, Twisted Bucky. I still like Enzo as a player, but FPL-wise, Arsenal have Tottenham, Aston Villa, Wolves, and City for the next 4. Look, Arsenal could win all 4 of them, but they have been inconsistent this season. I think they'll drop points in one of them. And I said this before Brentford, by the way. I don't want to be a twat about it, but I just had that feeling Arsenal would draw 1-1 in one of those games. I just got the actual game wrong, and it was Brighton in the end again. I'd still keep Gabriel, mate. I still think he can score in one of those games. He got a clean sheet against Villa, reverse fixture, also against Wolves, scored against City and scored against Tottenham. I'm not saying he's going to replicate that. In fact, I think he'll do worse, but I think Gabriel's worth keeping. Yeah, if you got Bruno, I'd keep him for the next week or 2. Then reassess. He's got a brilliant record against Brighton and Southampton. If Liverpool gets postponed, Salah and Trent or any other combo is mandatory till the end of the season. Yeah, I agree. And I'd still keep that Liverpool spot open for Arne Slot. For me personally, I'd be more inclined to use the assistant manager chip. Although, maybe you could argue for the other double coming up, I might save it for them. Yeah, best gaming for Wildcard, it's all team dependent and depends on chip strategy, but I'm looking at Gameweek 32-ish and then setting up a bench boost around Gameweek 33. Yeah, look, it's just my opinion. I mean, I haven't got FIFA for, just a year. It does seem like longer, and I feel like a happy man. Haven't taken any hits this season because of my rank, that's why. Nice. I didn't take a hit until December, I think, or November, but it's really backfired ever since I've started making them. Any chances Konate falls in price? Before the next deadline, possibly, but not tonight. Hopefully the Liverpool game doesn't get postponed. Currently on 28 points with 5 played. Gabriel, Enzo, Jackson all blanking. Yeah, I hope the same. I hope for the same as you, mate, but it's not looking good. Spread your love for Forest, Newcastle and Bournemouth. Yeah, I mean, there's so many teams you can cover. Even Crystal Palace. I mean, obviously, say Munoz, but even Gabriel still. I mean, there's so many options. Liverpool, defensively, Everton. You can't have them all. I would only do Jackson to Joao Pedro if it funds other moves. I still think Jackson is a better option in isolation than Joao Pedro. Yes, 65 points is fine, Geotip. It just depends how many players you have left and the circumstances. It's not looking good for the Liverpool United game tomorrow, but let's wait and see. Jellyfish Potter says, if it makes any Vandenberg on the bench managers feel better, I had Van Dijk 6, Joao Pedro 9, and Hall 12 all on my bench last week. Yeah, look, don't get me wrong. It's not the end of the world. Having 10 points on your bench from one player, it's not what you want to see, but it's a 4 million option. Maybe I should have played him with a Colwill. Maybe I made the wrong call there. But yeah, it's not the end of the world. I've had much worse than that in the past. Gordon or Mbumo? Until the end of the season, it's Mbumo. But buying in now is a bit awkward for Brentford because they've got City and Liverpool at home coming up. But yeah, I just think Mbumo's a better option overall. So it's probably him. Ideally, you'd have both, which I've talked about for several weeks now. Yeah, but in Liverpool, it's snowing apparently, and it's probably going to rain all day tomorrow, and that's going to cause some problems in the stadium and also for travel, it looks like. So let's wait and see. Hoping for the best, but don't count your chickens just yet. I don't think Forest defenders are a must-have now. They've got Southampton at home in 22, which is great, but then it's some poor fixtures and Liverpool at home coming up. Ideally, you'd have one, so either Sells, Aina, Milenkovic, or maybe Nico Williams, but it's not a must-have. As we just mentioned now, you've got Newcastle defenders like Lewis Hall, you've got Munoz, Gabriel, Trent, you've also got Kirkes and Howson. You don't have to go for a Forest defender. Even Mikalenko, by the way. I reckon the game is on. That's what I said earlier in the deadline stream. I'm just less optimistic with what's been circling around Twitter. 24 with 6 to go is bad, especially as I was on the back of 5 greens in a row. Yeah, it's pretty bad right now, but 6 to go, there is some room for optimism there. I prefer Castagna, but he's a punt for the next 7-8 weeks. As for Joachim Andersen, he might be the longer-term solution. But yeah, when I look at bonus points and assists, I think Castagna has the slight edge. For the top 5 defenders who offer attacking returns and the potential of clean sheets, Trent, Gabriel, Munoz, Lewis Hall, and I was doing well. I'm missing one name now. The other option, Robinson. Yeah, those are the top 5. Chess Footy says, what do you think of Van Dijk to Konate and Joao Pedro to Cunha? Yeah, good moves. Just be careful, Konate. He might be eased back into things, and Quansah might get a game or 2. But he offers better value than Van Dijk on paper. Yeah, Nico Williams, my problem with him is he's not as secure as Milenkovic or Aina. He won't get as many attacking returns or bonus points, but if he continues to start, he's my favourite 4-point premium defender and below. But I do have a slight preference for Anderson, Castagna, and Howson. I did Pedro to Minis 2 game weeks ago. Oof, unlucky, mate. Yeah, look, I saw Pedro this week, so I can't really talk too much, but yeah, I'm probably going to bring him back in. Always preferred Pro Evo to FIFA, mainly because of trophies too damn long-winded. And yes, I know I said early, I sent 10 years on 1 Pro Evo trophy. Yeah, that's dedication, mate. I'm waiting 20 years for a Premier League title, but that's another story. Lucas says 1 free transfer, Iwobi to Gordon, Ahmad, target Southampton, or roll. I just go to Gordon. I like Ahmad, really promising player, but if you're buying a midfielder this week, it's going to be Gordon. Snow in Paul on Twitter, and it's not Heelong doing drugs. Yeah. Look, let's wait and see, because the weather could be different tomorrow, but I'm not too optimistic right now about the game going ahead. Dylan, hard day at the office on both Chelsea and Arsenal. Yeah, with Chelsea, that's 4 games in a row. They've kind of fallen off the cliff, but Arsenal, they've been inconsistent all season, especially away from home. But yeah, I mean, the penalty pissed me off, but after that happened, I just knew Arsenal wouldn't score, and that's the big concern. It's happened so many times. I like to bring Trent in for the prep for the double. Not sure who to send out. Ideally, mate, it'd be Vandenberg, but you could argue you're spending too much money on the defensive line. Been waiting more than 20 years for a Prem trophy, yeah. Will you transfer Sarr for Gordon this game week? Ideally, I'd keep Sarr, but if that's your only route to Gordon, I'd probably just pull the trigger. Best captain this next game week? Yeah, Bruno's a good choice, yeah, but Haaland, Isak, Palmer, all good shouts. Salah's still right up there for me. It's probably between Salah, Isak. Yeah, I think those 2 are my top. Yeah, they're my favourites right now. And Haaland, Brentford away. If it was at home, I'd be more keen. Yeah, Salah, Isak is what I'm currently looking at. I go to uni in Liverpool and have a ring the doorbell outside the house. At the moment, it's not sticking. It's sleep. Right. Okay, thank you for the update. We've got a weatherman in the house, and okay, no, that sounded rude. I actually thought you were. I thought you were Joe Eppo for a second, so apologies. Maybe we haven't built up that trust yet. But thank you. I do appreciate it. It's going to be a very interesting 12 to 16 hours coming up. I feel like I can't do anything right this season, don't we all? I benched Jesus for his 12-pointer last week, brought him back in for a blank this week, moved Mbeumo to Diaz for this week for Mbeumo, 19-point swing. Yeah, and if the postponement happens, that's pretty sticky. Thoughts on Savio Dillon? Nice differential in the short term. I do like him. Look, he went 26 games without a goal, but against Everton, he played really well. Then backed it up with the goal contributions against Leicester and did it again this week. If I'm buying a midfielder, I'd be prioritising Gordon in Mbeumo long-term to partner Salah and Palmer, and I like Rodgers as a budget midfielder, but as a differential option there, Savio's absolutely fine. I'd rather go for Savio than Foden, for sure. I bought Doku last game week, but he stays 2 times on the bench. Yeah, I'd sell him, but not necessarily for Eze. I'm still not that keen on him. Leicester always a great fixture, to be fair. But yeah, I mean, Eze is better than Doku, for sure, in FPL. I'm just not a big fan of Eze. Joe says, sorry Dylan, my mate Michael Fish says it's a hurricane. Fair enough. Papa says, you think Jackson to Pedro and Ama to Gordon worth it for a -4? Yeah. I think long-term it's worth it. Mikalenko's a good move on the wildcard. He is. Ideally, you cover Everton defensively with Pickford, but it's also a question of budget. But yeah, Mikalenko's fine. Trini says, I have Trent, Salah, and Alisson. Think I need to get rid of Alisson. Oh, yeah. Only do it if you're absolutely set on using the Assman chip on Arne Slot. Otherwise, just hold your horses, because I think Alisson could still keep a clean sheet or two before that double even happens. Thank you everyone for tuning in. It has been a long one. I haven't even eaten dinner yet. I'm not playing the sympathy card, by the way. I'm just saying. Gonna have some dinner now. If you haven't already, smash the like button and subscribe for new. I'm going to actually check if we've hit our 31k subscribers goal. But if you haven't as well, check out the links in the description for my Twitter and Instagram, DylanRCM, for this FPL and Use Your Fantasy updates. And there will be Use Your Fantasy content this month in a couple of weeks' time. And let's have a little drum roll, maybe. Ooh, it'll be kind of dumb if I didn't hit 31k, but we did. Thank you, everyone. We have hit 31,000. I do appreciate those that have sent in super chats, all the likers, commenters, subscribers. We hit 30k like 3 weeks ago, I believe. And yeah, it was the Brighton versus Southampton Friday night game. Joao Pedro on the thumbnail. And now we've hit 31k, so thank you very much for all the support. Let's show my ugly face again, because let's make this personal. I'm joking. But I do appreciate it genuinely. And let's push on towards more goals in this calendar year. It's a great start to 2025, albeit my club let me down again. But yeah, at least there's something. I'm walking away with something, as Denzel Washington says. I'm not doing an impression of him, by the way. I'm not even going to attempt that. Thank you, Jellyfish, and thank you, Season Lemon. Good to see you. Wait, is that a greenhouse that just flew past? What are you on about, mate? Thanks for the stream. Enjoy your dinner. Thank you very much. Yes, I think Kwanzaa will start. I personally believe Konate will be eased back in. That's if the game goes ahead, by the way. Big if. Thank you, Bilbo Baggins. Obviously, I've read The Hobbit a few times. Like the films, although Lord of the Rings is obviously the GOAT trilogy. But yeah, Bilbo Baggins, the best Hobbit around. Thanks for the stream, Dylan. Thank you, Snickerboa. Lars Eric says 70 points of Sells, Nico Williams, Castagna, and Salah captain left. Feels like my best round this season could be the one. Could be this one. Nicely done. Very good score so far, and you've got some decent players left. Who's your vice captain, though? That might be very important. Yeah, I did Twister Parky. Thank you very much for that. I also very much appreciate it. Like I said on Discord, you didn't have to, but I appreciate the generosity. Thank you, Sad. Thank you, Penguino. And City. Have a good evening, everyone. Yes, watch Match of the Day. I will not be watching it for now because Arsenal. If not, I'll just skip the Arsenal section and watch the rest, do some analysis. I'm leaving, not walking. Misquoting Denzel. I'm leaving here with something. Did I say walking? You're always here picking up the inaccuracies with these quotes. Thank you. Murillo, good option. I'd rather invest in Aina or Milenkovic in Forest defensively or Sells in goal. But Murillo's fine. He is nailed on. He just missed out because of some problems, but yeah, he's fine. Greenhouse joke about Hurricane. Oh, Michael Fish. Yeah, that flew over my head. Apologies for that. Jai says, thoughts on Mbuma and Whistle double up for City at home next game week. Brentford at home, best in the league, up there with Liverpool's numbers. Think the double up is being slept on. No, yeah, I like that double up from game week 23-24 onwards. It's just over the next few, it does look a bit awkward, especially against Liverpool. But yeah, still very solid. And Mbuma's my favourite midfielder besides Salah and Palmer. Thanks for the therapeutic relief this stream on Saturday brings each week. I'm glad to hear it. It's also therapeutic for me, you know, venting a little bit after, you know what? Isak is vice-captain, same for me, mate. And I had Palmer vice-captain all week. Slight regret there if Salah doesn't play tomorrow with a postponement, if it is postponed. Anything changed regarding saving up free transfer for you this season? Well, I actually saved up quite a lot until December, but then I just went gung-ho with my moves and I've regretted it almost every single time. Yeah, it's because we hit 31k, so might as well. I wanted to, you know, celebrate a little bit, I guess. Dominus says, Dylan, who should I captain next week? We'll talk more about this in the upcoming days and videos, but my current preference would be Isak. Potentially, but it's not a good idea. I'd be cancelled immediately if I did Arsenal streams or Argentina. Thank you, Jai. Thanks, Dylan. You're a legend for answering our questions. We appreciate the effort you put into this. Thank you very much, mate. My brain is freezing. Probably a sign that it's shutting down, AI, like Joe says. But I appreciate the kind words and everyone else watching. So, yeah, let's go back again to the outro. Those are my social media platforms. You can also join the Discord server, FPL League, check out Drafthound, as well as Spotify. I'll see you very soon for more FPL and UC Fantasy content. The next stream will be in almost 2 weeks. Take care, enjoy the football. Good luck for the rest of Gameweek 21. Let's see if Liverpool versus Man United is postponed. Hopefully it isn't, but if it is, who cares? And what could we do about snow? Not much. That's the only way to stop this bloody Salah guy right now. I'll see you very soon, everyone. I hope you enjoy the football.